We are on the air. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the August 13th, 2024. Woo! The counting down to the first day of school. Mixed reactions, I'm sure. Welcome to the August 13th, 2024 board meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome again, everyone. I always like to take a moment to read the mission of the Board of Education of Charles County. The mission of Charles County Public Schools is to provide an opportunity for all school-aged children to receive an academically challenging, quality education that builds character, equips for leadership, and prepares for life in an environment that is safe and conducive to learning. All right. Next up, we will go to Dr. Navarro for the superintendent's update.
Thank you, Ms. Morley. Good afternoon, Board Chairperson Morley, Vice Chairperson Kramer, board members and staff, and those viewing today's meeting here in person or watching us online. Welcome to the first board meeting of the 2024-25 school year. As we move toward the start of another school year, I want to highlight several exciting Charles County Public Schools updates. Next week, we welcome back to schools and centers our dedicated teachers. We continue to attract and recruit new teacher hires, and yesterday we kicked off our new educator orientation at which more than 280 new hires started their career journey with us. So welcome to all of them. As a reminder to all, the school begins for students in kindergarten through grade 12 on Monday, August 26th. We anticipate more than 28,000 students to walk through our doors for the first day of school. And I, along with our staff, are excited to welcome students back. I know there's mixed feelings out there. I know some of you are excited to come back, especially we have our student leaders in the back that already came back to our board meeting. So welcome. It's nice to see you guys. Before I jump into the new year, I want to highlight a few summer successes. First, I want to congratulate the graduates who recently completed their high school diploma requirements through summer school. We honor 60 graduates.
Bravo.
In a very special ceremony to recognize their commitment to finish high school. I am so very proud of these students for their perseverance. We had students that persevered beyond their senior year, and we also had some early graduates as well in the group. I also want to share that thanks to this board and its commitment to revisiting the eligibility policy to increase student access, 50 Charles County public school students took classes during the summer school and regained eligibility for the fall season. Yes, it is important for the board and the public to know and understand the impact that policy decisions directly have on students. So every time the board makes a policy decision that impacts students or their families, I want to quantify what that means in terms of the lives of our students and our families. We also supported hundreds of students in summer boost and extended school year programs. I thank our staff who bypassed much of their own summer break to continue helping students most in need. We also provided transportation to most students in our summer programs, and for this, I again want to thank our bus drivers and attendants. They're still working, by the way. I saw the one kid that gets picked up in my neighborhood get picked up this morning. Enrollment in our summer enrichment, career and technical education and advanced placement boot camps increased this year again. Thank you to all who played a part in providing more students with increased learning opportunities this summer. Learning does not stop over the summer, and nor does the commitment of our staff members to ensure students have what they need to achieve success. I also want to thank our food and nutrition services staff who operated Lunch on Us again this summer. And also, this was the first year of our Meals on the Move program, with our food truck reaching even more communities. Thanks to our staff, hundreds of children enjoyed free meals this summer. Additionally, I want to recognize our maintenance and supporting services staff members who have been busy this summer updating facilities and ensuring that some of our major renovation projects, such as the reopening of T.C. Martin Elementary School, are completed. Thanks to these teams, students and staff are returning to updated and sparkling facilities, ready to welcome them to the new year. Lastly, I want to recognize our early childhood education team who worked tirelessly to ensure our pre-kindergarten program is serving as many students as we have space for. I'm excited for the opening of our second early learning center, which will serve more than 100 3-year-old students in pre-kindergarten. I also appreciate the hard work of our staff who register students for school and will continue to do so over the next few weeks and throughout the school year. Now on to preparations for the new year. The school system will continue to use the Where is the Bus app this school year for bus information. Through the platform, parents can follow their child's bus in real time. Additional buses have been equipped with the GPS technology, so the app is beneficial to more families. Bus information should be loaded in Where's the Bus, as well as in Parent View and School Locator on or about August 21st. Student schedules and teacher assignments should be loaded to Parent View and Student View accounts by August 21st as well. Please continue to check your account for updates, both for students and, both for schedules and for bus information. The Charles County Public Schools Code of Conduct Committee revised an area of the dress code for this coming year. Students will no longer be permitted to wear any top or shirt that does not fully cover their midriff area, and this change was outlined in the 2024-2025 Code of Conduct. The new parent handbook calendar is also posted on the CCPS website, and students will receive a copy the first week of school. As a final reminder for our families, please make sure your child is up to date on the vaccines required for the school year. The Charles County Department of Health has several upcoming free clinics for families. Please do not forget to fill out also your free meals application posted on our website. Our website right now is focused on helping families get all the information that they need to start the school year, so please visit our website. Continue to visit the website and follow it through our social media platforms for the most up-to-date information. Again, I am excited to once again partner with all of our stakeholders to kick off another great school year. Thank you for your continued support of Charles County Public Schools.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Navarro. I just want to take a quick moment to officially welcome again and recognize our new student board member, Mr. Sam Burke. Hi, welcome. Sam's term officially started on July 1st. So welcome, Sam, and welcome to our student leaders in the back. Hi, everyone. All right, next up, we will hear from Mr. Sean Heil from the EACC with their update.
Good afternoon, Board of Education Chairperson Moore-Lee, Vice Chairperson Kramer, my Board of Education, Superintendent Navarro, distinguished guests, and those watching online. Welcome back to the start of the 24-25 school year. We started welcoming new educators yesterday, and I've just come from that today to be with you, and I'll be leaving after my comments to go back to that event. I would like to start by commending the work that CCPS has done to make this start very inviting and welcoming for all of our new employees. There was a lot of positive energy and excitement at NEO yesterday and today, and that was due in large part to the work that CCPS did to make that happen. I would like to share what educators may be doing in 2 weeks when students come back. I will be focusing on teachers and administrators, but we know there are 100 other jobs like this in education. Educations learn the curriculum and create interesting lessons. They learn state standards while being creative with how to convey those standards. They will adjust those lessons in advance for students with needs, and on the fly for the students in front of us. There are safety procedures to go over and drills to practice. There are names to learn and lockers to assign. They will unstick some of those lockers and find students who have wandered off. There's attendance to take in county, school, and classroom practices to review. There is Canvas to learn and the joint navigation of Synergy, Oracle, and Red Rover. There will be websites to update and emails to answer. There will be students that need to be calmed down and some that will need to be pepped up. We will be patient and kind. There will be copies to make and smart boards to use, those that have them. Some will need zipped coats and tied shoes. We will help find their classes and help them with their schedules. We will be in lunchroom and in the halls. We will de-escalate fights and escalate learning. Most of this will change in every 48 to 90 minutes. For administration, there are teacher names to learn and support while supporting the tenured staff. They'll be visible in the halls and respond to all of their email and/or referrals. They'll make sure that school is safe and secure without instilling fear in students or staff. They will run grade-level assemblies and send those schedules a week ago. They will adjust the bell schedule for the first week and remind everyone that the schedule has returned to the normal bell schedule the week after. They'll make sure there's a fire drill in August and one again in September and every month after that. They will be tested by students and staff and will respond with compassion and understanding. They'll make sure that all classes are covered in the building and plan meetings that improve their staff. They will worry about that late bus and already take phone calls from parents. They will oversee extracurricular activities and get sponsors for that one group that still needs one. And for all groups that staff education, this is Monday. My ask for you is to be present. Go to the buildings and meet with staff and students. Ask how they're doing, but listen to their answers. Be empathetic. One of the most powerful speeches I've heard in a long time was by Governor Moore at the MSEA convention 2 years ago. It was all powerful, but the theme was, and a line from it was, I see you, I hear you. What you see and what you hear and what you acknowledge and support matters. See and hear us. I look forward to working with all of you in the 24-25 school year.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Howe. All right, next up, on behalf of AFSCME, we have Mr. Bernard Barnes.
Good afternoon, Charles County Board of Education.
Good afternoon, sir.
Due to circumstances beyond her control, Ms. Lawson could not make it here today. She wanted me to convey a heartfelt apology for not being here. Of course, she prepared a letter to be read. I will be reading it in the first person. I will try to read it enthusiastically as she would, so bear with me. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Gertrude Lawson, and I am the president of AFSCME Local 2981. As we gear up for the new school year, I am pleased to share with you information about our new executive board. Our executive board, which is comprised of a mixture of departments within CCPS. We feel this new board will further benefit our members and the community due to our different perspectives and experiences, but staying grounded and allowing for our differences to bring us together respectfully and cohesively under one accord to assist and serve all support members. We are also preparing ourselves for upcoming events and happenings in and around our council and in our local. The beginning of August, Local 2981 is sending 2 at-large members to the 46th International Convention out west. This year's theme is Frontline and Fearless, which is our way of life right here and now in our county. The members will be engaging and learning through professional workshops, networking with over 4,000 members from all over our nation, interacting with other key members of our council, as well as voting on important topics that affect us all. We also are excited to be part of the 2nd annual Back to School Bash at the Blue Crab Stadium. This will give us a chance for members and non-members to get a chance to meet us and see what we have to offer. Last, but certainly not least, we are looking forward to the start of the state's bargaining process, steward training, which will be announced in the fall, and of course, Council 3's convention, which will also take place in the fall. We will be busy, but always available to any member of support who needs our services. I thank you for your time and look forward to collaborating with you this school year. Gertrude Lawson, AFSCME President and Steward, Local 2981. Thank you.
Oh, great job, Mr. Barnes. Thank you. All right, next up, Mr. Kevin Lowndes, Office of Teaching and Learning on the grading policy. And while Mr. Lowndes makes his way up, just FYI for board members, this is information, so please try to limit your questions respectfully. We'll do a deeper dive in September. Welcome, Mr. Lowndes. Oh, and Mr. Schwartz.
I'm joining him as well, just to give that introduction as well.
Okay.
His information, but to explain that the board is looking at the 5,000 and 6,000 series policies, and we're going to be taking them to the board as a whole policy group, but this one we're taking out of order because we needed an answer sooner than we can get it to the board for the rest of the policies. And so we're bringing this to the board as an information item today, report item at the next meeting, an action item by the October meeting, so that we can have this in place for our staff to distribute starting in October. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Lance.
Okay. Chairperson Morley, Vice Chairperson Kramer, board members, and Superintendent Dr. Navarro. It's great to be back. Seems like we just left the other day.
It does.
But today I'm going to present some of the changes that the board committee that's looking at the grading has made some suggestions going forward. And so I'm going to highlight the changes that the committee made or is suggesting. And as Mr. Schwartz mentioned, today is to share the changes. Next time we'll discuss the changes and then the vote on the changes. I do want to say that on the board policy, what I'm going to be showing you today is the policy that's currently the way it is, and then the suggested change, with those suggested changes in the policy. If you go to the documents, board docs, it does have the track changes on the current policy so that folks can see the exact changes and where they were made to the current policy. So the first thing is the 4 areas that were made for adjustments were a minimum grade of 50%, adding elementary guidance to the policy. Currently, the guidance just is 6 through 12, and so the policy would bring in the elementary, pre-K, and elementary students. Looking at the grade percentages, there were slight changes there you're going to see to accommodate, instead of 90%, 89.5%. So when we're checking out the grades and synergy, it knows how to bump up the grades, and it's consistent throughout the county. And then the weighting system. So the current policy and the way it is talks about no minimum grades will be assigned, and that has to do with the 50% policy. Currently, that is interpreted by the school system as not being able to have a 50% policy, that there's no minimum grade shall be assigned to any one grade at any one time. Once again, I just want to point out the grading scale here. You'll see currently it's 90 to 100, 80 to 89, and there's slight adjustments to that. At the bottom, whoops, on the next slide, where is it? Sorry about that. It talks about a citizens report. There was great discussion amongst the board members about why are we still having a citizens report when we should be looking at student work habits. And so you'll see an adjustment made to calling it work habits. And there is a way for us to get that on. There is defined work habits out there that we can put on the report cards and make it very clear as to what the work habits are the students are achieving. I just want to highlight here, you'll see the pre-K, once again, this was not in the current policy. It started at grades 6 through 12, and so you'll see that the pre-K has been added to the new policy in the elementary to bring it more in line with consistency. And the other thing is that I want to point out here is that there's been a slight adjustment where, and the policy talks about outstanding, satisfactory, needs improvement in areas, and we're talking about mastery, partial mastery, and not showing mastery. And so, and that is more to bring it more in line with the way the state looks at achievements among students. With the weighting system, one of the things that we discussed at past board meetings was that our college courses are actually not weighted as high as our AP courses. And so there was a change from the current policy that talks about advanced placement courses, and then changing it and talking about college level courses, which does include the AP. So we would have the early college courses and our dual enrollment courses count the same as our advanced placement courses, which we've heard from our community as something that they really would like to see. And so those are the changes that we will be bringing forward. And once again, in board docs, you can look at where the track changes are that have been suggested, and we'll discuss these changes at the next board meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lowndes. As Mr. Schwartz shared that we divided up the 5,000 and 6,000 series among the board members. So there are multiple committees meeting simultaneously to tackle different aspects. But this was given priority in order to allow whatever eventually passes time to be implemented. So are there any brief comments or questions? Ms. Craven.
Thank you, Chairperson Morley, and thank you all for the presentation. Just real quick, so just for my benefit and I think for the benefit of the public, I'm still a little unclear on the 50% rule. So on slide 8, I appreciate the attempt at defining good faith effort because I know that's something that educators have expressed concern with in terms of how do you define that, and it's very subjective and all of those things. But were you saying that we do currently have a minimum 50% rule, and you're proposing to change that?
We currently do not have a
We
minimum
do not.
50% rule.
Okay, but
So
you're
a student currently right now, if they earn a 22% on an assessment, then that's what they get puts in the report card.
okay.
And I think with the grading committee, the recommendation was to change it to a 50%, similar to many of the LEAs around us, where it still counts as a failing grade. A student fails, it's a 50%, but it doesn't make it so that the student can't get caught up with a failing grade, that they can actually improve upon their grade and still pass the class.
I was going to ask for a little bit of the rationale because statistically it's almost impossible to pull up a 20%, for example. Yeah.
Or a 10 or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. So for the benefit of the public, then we don't currently have any minimum grade, but the proposal is to give a minimum of 50% if the student showed good faith effort as defined in the new policy proposed, or the proposed policy language.
Correct.
Am I correct? Okay.
And then Mr. Schwartz just pointed out to me that Steedham does have the 50% rule currently right now. So
Okay.
students entering Steedham, many of them oftentimes are so far below the 50% that when they go there, it'd be almost impossible to help them get caught
Understood.
up while they're working on whatever it is that brought them to Steedham. The ones that are not there because they choose to go there for CTE. So once again, Steedham's a complicated building because we have the CTE students that are choosing to go there and that are doing very well there, and it's a great CTE program, but we also have the alternative part of the school that some of our students will go there, and it says in the policy a student that's being placed there will have a 50% going into Steedham.
Understood. Thank you. That was very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Ms. Thomas.
I just wanted to add something to that because we've kind of a little bit talked about the committee. With the 50% rule, one thing is we also talked about we still will have the metrics available to support that student. Even with the 50% rule, we still have the metrics available so that we can see where a student is maybe struggling with the grade, so we can still use that data in order to help them. So we did have some discussion about that, so I just wanted to add that. So it's not like a erasure. It's, just helping the student recover from a grading perspective statistically, but also then keeping the information so that you can see where a student may need help and the teacher can still help support them. So just
So it is possible to do that. We mentioned that in Synergy, where the current grade that their student earned can remain in the grade book, but then at the end, when we're figuring out the overall grade, it can be converted to a 50%.
Thank you, Ms. Bella Washington, you had something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Lowndes, for this. I definitely understand why it's been considered. Looking across all of the schools in the United States, a lot of them have gravitated to this. But I do want to make sure that we understand the needs here for Charles County. And I understand the pros, encouraging effort, reducing anxiety, focusing on learning, equity. But I don't want to overlook the cons of it, because it's great inflation, because people could, think that, and the lack of accountability and misrepresentation of their mastery. Because as we go further into college, some going to go to college, some going to go to the military, some going to go to two-year colleges. We want to still make sure our students are competitive. So understanding the rationality of doing this, I don't want to lose what we have built so far and making sure that the students before coming up, remain the same competent, that the standards that people always come to Charles County for. So just making sure that we take all of this in, and I know, Madam Chair, you said to make sure it's brief and we're gonna discuss it more, but I just want to give that outside of, the pros and cons of doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller Washington. Mr. Lucas?
Thank you, Ms. Morley. To echo that, so we, this board, previous boards, and as has been mentioned, other school systems have had discussion and gravitated towards this. There are definite merits. Certainly, when a student doesn't do so well and makes progress, you want to reward that. Just for the board and for the public, there's other options between giving the grade that the student earned and giving a 50%. And I just like the board to consider that as we move forward, and also giving that grade at certain times during the year, maybe in the beginning of the year. That's something that the board could consider, because there is an opportunity for students to game the system a little bit. When you have a good faith effort that's not clearly defined, there's things that they might do just to try to get by, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to set up an expectation where not that getting a failing grade is getting away with something, but you just don't want to set up something where the student truly isn't mastering the subject. So I just want to keep the board aware of that as we talk about it in the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. And I'll just add one final comment. Myself and the law firm we jokingly say of Thomas & Thomas worked on this particular grading policy. And similar to eligibility, the thought in mind is how can we help our students to do their very best? It's not to encourage anyone who clearly is otherwise not going to pass. You're not going to be boosted from an F to an A. This will never help you in that way. And to Mr. Lucas's point, the good faith effort is explicitly defined, and we spent several times discussing it. And it may be demonstrated by a genuine attempt to meet the expectation or requirement of the entire assignment in a timely manner. A genuine attempt may be evidenced by the student displaying persistence, striving for accuracy, showing on-time task, and or using an alternative method to solve a problem regardless of accuracy. And then it talks about when a 0 may be entered. So like anything else, you're relying on the expertise of our teachers, which is why we hire them, because this is their field. This is what they know. And so we're relying on the experts to let us know, is this truly a good faith effort? But with that said, again, an F is still an F. So whether if it's an F at a 49 or F at a 19, it's not going to get you to an A if you put an F effort. So I just want to make that clear for the general public as well as for the benefit of the board. So thank you very much, Mr. Lowndes.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Schwartz, Mr. Lowndes, stay put, please. Oh, that's right. Yes. More to come. Next up, college and career readiness, and I believe Mr. Steve Roberts. Mr. Roberts, welcome.
Do you have it on here?
It should be right on the board, yeah. I get it.
Yeah, because you can't leave it open. Yeah. Severe. Exactly, yeah. How many years is it still?
The board has, Mr. Roberts just put a PowerPoint up. I want to talk a little bit about college and career readiness. And as Dr. Navarro so eloquently stated at the leadership meeting, when our job is not only to help our students graduate, but our job is to get them beyond graduation and help them be successful after graduation. And so in doing that, we're looking at some measurements that our students will leave with some type of credential or some type of college credit that will show that they can be successful either in the workplace or in college when they go on. So today we're going to give an update on our CTE programs, our completers, our AP advanced placement test and enrollment, and our early college as we look at college and career readiness in Charles County. So the first thing I want to talk about is early college and dual enrollment. And for folks to understand the difference between the two. So early college program is when our students actually go to the college campus and take all of their courses on the college campus, and they're taking a full load of college courses. A dual enrollment course is when they're taking one college course, and that college course, but they're also enrolled in our high school courses at the same time, so it's dually enrolled. So this can take place both at the college, they might go there after school and take a course there at the college, or it can also take place at our high school. Many dual enrollment courses are offered at our high schools. And so when you look at our enrollment in the early college program, we started this 3 years ago, and we had 72 people that participated in our early college program. They did very well. We had a graduation. Wow. They got both college certificate and as well as a high school diploma. Last year we had our first junior class also participate, so we had juniors and seniors last year, and so those students will actually this year will be graduating with an AA degree as well as their high school diploma, the students that participated as a junior and as a senior. But we will still have students that participated as a senior only this year, and they also will get a certificate of 33 credits to show that they participated in many of the college credits offered at the College of Southern Maryland. And as of right now, we have 145 students that are enrolled in the early college program. We do have this year a couple of new classes where we are actually starting a medical coding and a pharmacy tech program. We have students enrolled in that this year. We also tried to offer the electrical because one of the things that we saw was our electrical program is a highly desired program for our CTE, but we did not have actually any students sign up for it. We had a couple, 2 signed up for it, and then at the end they decided that they'd rather attend their full day within their high school. So the only 2 programs we're going to be offering this year within the CTE is medical coding and pharmacy tech. But as you can see, we continue to provide more opportunities for our students to be able to take college courses in the early college program. And I'll be coming to you later this year with additional programs that we'll be looking to offer for next year. Where did it go? Okay, so the next program just gives you a breakdown of our students that are currently in the early college program. And what I'm showing here is that, you know, when you look at it by demographics, you'll see that our students in all areas are attending the early college program at more numbers going forward. And so this is showing you the dual enrollment and the early college program, and it's showing them combined. And one of the things that you'll see is that there's a decline in the dual enrollment courses because many of the students that would have continued in the dual enrollment courses are now taking the early college program. And so when you combine it, though, we've actually increased when you look at 2023 and 2024 from 601 students taking advantage of one of these to 630 students taking advantage.
And just out of context, a senior class, I think we graduate a total of about 2,000 seniors a year. So it is important to see the vast number of students that are taking advantage out of and more work to do.
A quick question related to that. Are we anywhere near the capacity in terms of the students that could be taking advantage?
So one of the things I'm going to talk about a little bit at the end was Dr. Val talked about it as a three-legged stool, that, you know, what we want is our students to leave with one of these pathways, either CTE, college, or advanced placement. And as long as we're increasing in all of those, then we're doing better. Okay. But many times one will take from the other, and so you have to look at all 3 pathways together to really get an understanding of what our students are doing, and are they leaving us with something other than just a high school diploma, yeah, but doesn't have a certificate or a college credit or an AP credit attached to it.
Yeah.
So with advanced placement, I would like to talk a little bit about this. So when you look at the advanced placement, you'll see once again that we had more students take advantage of the AP enrollment. And this is one or more courses. So you'll see that the graph on the left is one student. And so a student might take more than one course. So what we did on the left is we looked at how many students are taking at least one course. And so this is, even if a student took more than one course, it won't show up on the graph on the left. The graph on the right is the AP test taken. You'll see that there are more tests taken than there's more students that are in the classes, because in this case, we did include the multiple tests that students take if they took more than one. And that's why you'll see the difference between the enrollment and then the AP test taken. But once again, you'll see that we increased both in the enrollment in the course and we increased in the test taken. Now the test taken, one of the reasons why we probably increased in that is so much is that, based on the blueprint, and we are now paying for all of the advanced placement classes that courses, the exams that they're taking, with the hopes that more students will take advantage of this. What I want to show here is that even though we had many more tests taking and many more students in advanced placement courses, you'll see that the scores are very similar. So 49% of our students in 2021-22 scored at a 3 or higher. 2022-23 it went 52%, and then this year we're at 49%. So it's been pretty consistent, even though we're getting more students in there and we're having more students take the exams. This past year, we added 9th graders. So US History, AP US History, we added for the first time. We had, people applauding, but we also had people doubting. And many people said that we were pushing students too hard as 9th graders. They were going to bring the scores down. They were going to water the class down. And I think what you're going to see here is that our students in the 9th grade actually, when you look at their average, is higher than all the other grades, and that our students actually did very well. Those 147 students that took U.S. history did extremely well.
About 75% of the 9th graders passed the test, got a 3 or higher, which is
We have a child of a board member that was one of them, so thank you for your support
contribution,
and
right?
contribution to the GPA average.
Your customer.
Thank your customer.
It's our blind group, our blind experiment test group.
The other thing I want to go here is that because we're having more and more students take the exams, we need more teachers. And so over this past summer, we had 23 teachers attend AP training. In the last couple of years, we've only had 12 teachers a year is what we've averaged over the prior 3 years. So we are training more and more teachers. This helps us in many ways, not only with the AP courses, but in our other courses, because one of the things we're doing is if a teacher's interested in teaching AP, we are paying for them to go to training. And so say they're teaching an honors course, they'll know the rigor that they have to get their student ready for in order to do well in the AP course. So we're not limiting the teachers. If they want to go to training, we will pay for them to go. And once again, here's just a breakdown for our students in the past 3 years. And the blue is the course enrollment, and the orange is test taken. And as you can see, we're going up in both those areas, the blue and the orange, which is good. That's what we want to continue seeing, that the number of students taking the test is increasing, but the number of students also enrolled in all of our courses is increasing. One of the things I do want to bring to the board's attention this year, though, is with the number of students that are taking the exams, not only here, but with CTE, we are making an adjustment with our PSAT testing this year. And I just wanted to let the board know and the community know that we are not going to be doing all 10th graders and paying for all 10th graders to take the PSAT test. We've shifted over the money that we used for the PSAT test, and we're using it to pay for our advanced placement test, and we're using it to pay for our CTE. And the fact is, we looked at what do we do with the data that we collect with students that are taking the PSAT, and we're not using it the way we used to use it, which was we used it to help us identify students to take advanced placement courses. But we're actually getting more students in advanced placement courses And I think you'll see it with that 9th grade enrollment than we did even prior to using the PSAT data. So. Once again, it's broken down by groups. Blue is enrollment and yellow is number of students taking the exams. CTE completers. So CTE completers, this continues to evolve. The state continues to identify what a CTE completer is, and I just want to give the boards a heads up. There's much discussion going on right now at the state level as to what these pathways look like and how are we defining these pathways. They're looking at some flexibility, and so I hope to provide an update at some point this year that the state will, when they provide the decision as to what they're going to call a CTE, I'll bring it to the board and let the board know what the decision has been as far as the CTE. I'm going to let Mr. Roberts kind of talk a little bit about now how we talk about a CTE completer and how he's collected the data.
In Synergy, we've worked closely with Ms. Brandt and her office in making sure that the courses are set up correctly inside of Synergy that map out for each particular completer that a student could be enrolled in. It has all the course requirements for that particular completer, and it has the availability for counselors and such at the school to be able to monitor where the students are. So for instance, a student could be in a CTE completer like business administration, but they could also be in a ROTC completer of some sort. So with this CTE completer program, pathway inside of Synergy, it allows counselors to monitor where the students are, what kind of courses they've completed, and it allows us to really pull data for each particular student to see if they've, like for instance, it shows on here the 9th through 12th graders, what students are actually in a program, and then monitoring if those students are completing that program or continuing on in that pathway that they started with whichever year they actually begin. So it's real nice data collection that we can look at and we can monitor and we can get back to school, especially right now as they're finalizing schedules and getting ready for Monday, to make sure when teachers come back, to make sure that kids are in the right pathway and that they've continued on their progress and that they haven't, it wasn't missed that, hey, they were in this program and then they didn't get the second course within the program. So it's really nice to be able to do that. We're also working with Ms. Jones and Ms. Brandt so that we can create this career plan, which is going to allow students, the platform is going to allow us to, using the same sort of progression that's within the CTE student pathway inside of Synergy, we can use this career plan so that as we work for course requests this year, it will allow us, once we get all those in place and we have everything set, mapped over, we're going to be able to, it'll automatically populate their course requests when they're finalizing their course requests at the high school level, so they'll know exactly what courses need to be in there, and then they can fill the rest of their course requests with the classes that are either electives or whatever choices that they want to go through. But this will allow us to make sure that there's nobody missed, that course that student didn't necessarily get signed up for because they didn't realize they missed it and the counselor didn't catch it. This is going to allow them to be able to do that. So we worked really hard to make sure that all of those course progressions are right inside of Synergy, so we can map it out correctly for them, and then they can have those conversations with the student. The counselor can easily, that this was on your course request. Do you want to continue in this pathway? Do you want to add additional pathway? Like I was saying, for instance, a student could be in a business administration pathway as well as an ROTC pathway of some sort, and still making sure that all the course requirements are met for the graduation requirements.
The current way we do it is that Ms. Brandt looks at the trend of the students that have continued on and then looks at the current student, which they've signed up for this year, and looks to see whether there's some numbers that are a little off as to this many students took the first class in engineering in the past, this many students have continued on. And then we notice that some schools the numbers vary greatly from the trend. So then we contact the school and we said, are we sure that all the students that are in the engineering pathway are signed up for the right courses? And that's currently how we do this. Whereas when Mr. Roberts and his folks are able to build it into Synergy, it'll allow us to make sure that those students are placed in the correct class if they pick that pathway. So with the CTE completers, the blue, first of all, is the number of students that are enrolled in a CTE course. So this doesn't necessarily mean they're in a CTE pathway, but it does mean they're currently in a CTE course. The orange is actually the the number or percentage of students that are seniors that graduated with a CTE completer. And so what you'll see is it's pretty stagnant over the last couple of years. And part of that is what we saw this past year is some of the students that were in a pathway opted to go to early college. And then that's what, when we go to the next slide and we look at our students and making sure that they graduate with one of these pathways, either the advanced placement, the dual enrollment early college, or the CTE pathway. And this is really the number that we're trying to improve upon, to make sure that our students are graduating with something that will help them be successful after graduation. And you'll see that the percentage of seniors this year that graduated with one of these three has increased over the past year and the past 2 years, actually. I just want to remind everyone that we did make some changes to the CTE programming, and we are currently right now working with middle schools and high schools and planning to host some nights for our communities to explain the changes and explain the programs and explains what will be happening. We are going to be hosting in the middle schools and in the high schools. With the middle schools, because of the space limitations, it will just be for the middle school parents. But with the high schools, we're going to invite the elementary feeder schools as well as the high school parents, because we have larger auditoriums to hold the community in that place. So this is just the timeline as to what to expect with the CTE program for next year. And at this time, I'd love to take any questions.
Thank you. Oh, we have a question. Yes, sir, in the back.
So supposedly, you wanna, for the ready money for the PSAT, that's only required for sophomores to take it if we're not paying for it for everyone?
No, it will not be required for sophomores to take this year.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Butler Washington.
On the same, thank you for this presentation. On the same lines, if the school is not going to give, are the school going to give the parents an opportunity to allow their child to take the PSAT, even if the school is not paying for it? Is it?
Yes, so we're working on that now.
Okay.
We're putting things in place to make sure that students still have the opportunity to take it.
All right, great, thanks.
Ms. Warren and then Ms. Thomas.
Yes, quick question. I had, well, a couple of questions. A couple from the community or from a concerned parent. But my first question is, you mentioned paid training for AP teachers, correct? Now, is it a requirement for all AP teachers to have training? Or like, is it a difference between the paid training and just the regular professional development training? How does that, the teachers?
We pay for them to go. So AP, in order to teach their courses, they want you to be trained within the AP curriculum.
Okay.
And so during the summer, they offer advanced placement course trainings throughout the country. And then so we pay for our teachers to go get trained in the content that they're going to teach the following year.
Okay, great, because that was one of the questions that a concerned parent had. And I think we had addressed this. One of the questions was also about how are we preparing kids for the national exams because of the failure of the Cisco exam. How are we preparing them?
So we're having discussions in that right now. One of the ways that we are addressing the situation with our computer science courses is that we have teamed up with College of Southern Maryland, and we are sending our teachers to get some professional development at the college and to be able to work with the teachers that are currently teaching the courses at the college to make sure that they're up to date and they have an understanding of what the rigor is and how to teach the courses.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for this presentation. I think the data was really helpful just to kind of see what the progression has been and I guess the positive pieces of the program. But one of the charts that kind of highlighted some data for me, I think it's chart 3. I see some gender disparities in who's participating in some of these programs. And I would like us to look at some of the data that's beyond high school to completion of college or other programs by males, particularly minority males, and see if we can kind of get them some introduction, like if we can do some things to kind of equalize the gender, right? Girls are participating. You know, we might be high achievers in high school, but are the boys doing the same? So I'd like to see us market better to young men or encourage them to be good academic stewards of their own education. So I would like to see us address that if we could, or at least think about why there's some disparities and what we could do to equalize that.
Good point. Like, as you pointed out, at the college level, we're also seeing
The same, right?
For some reason, that, I think the last thing I saw was a 60-40 discrepancy between female and males going to college.
And so I feel like, because I've seen those statistics too, I feel like it's maybe something we can do to help them earlier.
Yep.
And even if we go back down to 5th grade or to middle school, if we encourage them, and perhaps it is some things about maybe you don't have to be the 3.2 student to get into some of these classes, but you just have to be consistent, show effort, and be successful. So maybe we review the criteria, because boys, if they aren't, pushed, maybe sometimes they don't participate. But I would like to see us use our students to equalize some of that as they go off to make decisions if they want to do higher education. The other thing that you had a data point on slide, the AP test taken, and then you talked about yeah. So, but what I want to know is if they do repeats, if they have to repeat the exam, are we paying for repeats or do they pay for repeats? They want to retake the test if they don't.
So what this means that they've taken more than one test. So you have someone who might be taking AP biology and they're taking an AP math, AP statistics, for example.
But they can retake a test if they don't get a high enough score, right?
So we're paying it for the first time.
We pay for first time and they pay for second time if they have to take it. Okay. And then the other thing is, what are we doing about the kind of pathway support to completion? I know there are, we're asking students to make a decision about these programs, sometimes at a very early age, right? 6th grade, 7th grade, and by the time they get to high school, they may change their mind. And so I would like to understand, or for us to at least pay some attention to how counselors are helping students with the flexibility to maybe change and, or maybe change again, but still do one of these or some of these things. You have kids who make it into North Point, get halfway through the mechanical program or automotive, and they're like, I don't really want to have oil under my nails all the time, so I want to do something else. And so I don't know how we're addressing that, but I would like to make sure that we are addressing that appropriately, and or I think there used to be a rule, and I could be wrong, but if you're in certain programs and you can't do dual enrollment, there used to be a rule, because I remember a student who said, I'm in the Cisco program, so I can't do dual enrollment. But to allow kids flexibility to kind of do different things, because sometimes, it's kind of like sometimes with sports, you say play baseball and swimming and soccer, because you never know what later you may really want to do. So I just wanted to make sure that as we're ushering these kids, we still give them a little bit of flexibility to keep changing their minds if they need to, as long as they're getting to one of these things.
So we do believe in being able to change your mind. And I think one of the things that we're trying to do, though, is strengthen our pathways. And so we're going to use Excello this year. And it's one of our goals is to get more and more of our students to identify a pathway in the middle schools and put it in a plan in the Excello. And with the understanding that they're going to be able to change, but at least they're thinking that way. We're starting to get them to think, okay, I need to take a sequence of courses in order to get where I want to go. So get them to understand, and that's one of the reasons why last year we had career coaches at the middle schools working with our students to understand what are the jobs that are out there, and what does it take to get those jobs, and what courses do I need to take to get those jobs, just to get them to think that way, and then to continue with the pathways in high school with Excello and use that not only for the students to use it, but then also to have the parents use it and get a chance to look at it. And they too can look at, okay, if I want my son or daughter, we're talking about him being an electrician, what do I need to take and what does that job require? And then they can look and they can to see that. And so we're at the beginning stages. We haven't used it to its full capacity, and it's one of the areas that we're looking to strengthen this year. But we'll make sure that everyone understands that this is not a pathway that they have to take for life. But they do need to take a course that will help them be prepared for after high school.
So it might be kind of like a first choice, second choice, so kids can still remain on the path, but maybe have some options. And then my last question is about synergy and the pre-population of courses. I think that was great, right? Pre-populating the courses so you don't miss anything and you get too far along and thought, oh, now how do I fit this course in? I think that is excellent. But how do the parents get involved, right? When the kids are, because I remember those like course sheets, and I'm bugging my kid, like, where's your course sheet? Where did you fill it out? Did you, you know? So we talked about this earlier today in another topic, having like a quick tips guide for all things that parents needed to know to support their kids, because and then sending some stuff out, like, it's time, parents, make sure you bug your kid about making sure their synergy stuff is up to date, because I think that's excellent that you've done that work, but I don't want the parents to miss out participating with their student.
Yeah, and that's part of the course request process, is that the parents can see it, the students can see it, they can see it in parent view and student view, so they'll all be listed right there. Then the student can either choose to include that course or exclude that course from their request. So it's an option for both of them.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, I'll circle back to you, Ms. Warren. Mr. Lucas, and then Ms. Kramer was next.
Hi, just real quick, on slide 14, where you show college and career readiness, yeah, that one. So what's the goal? To get as close to 100% there?
For every student to graduate with one of these.
Right,
So
right.
that
So,
they get either take the AP pathway, or
Yep.
the college pathway, or the CTE pathway.
okay, so that, I just want to make sure the public understands
Which
that.
means we
Yeah.
need to create more openings and opportunities for our students to
Right.
be able to graduate within one of these three areas. And I think one of the things that Dr. Navarro pointed out is that, you know, the leg we're missing is actually the internship leg. And so how are we going to get the internship and add that? Because it is one of the things that we're looking to add, more opportunities for our students to do internships in the type of area that they're interested in. So, and it is one of the things that the blueprint is requiring as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Kramer?
Thank you so much. Thank you for this presentation. So you all know I'm on the CTE Local Advisory Council, and I really just love all things college and career readiness. So this is just music to my ears.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of just questions and points of clarification. So circling back to the PSAT. So the rationale behind not requiring the 10th graders to take it anymore is because we used to use that as a metric to identify students to take AP, and we're no longer doing that because now we pretty much open it to everyone. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we don't need to do that anymore. But it's still available, just so that parents know it is still available.
We'll still offer the opportunity for students to take it, but they will have to pay for it.
Yeah, and it's not required, like
it's
it
not
used to be, like
required,
all 10th graders took it. Okay, perfect, thank you for that. One point of data on slide 11 that really sticks out is the special education students. So the numbers are very low for that.
I'm sorry, what slide?
Slide
That's
11. Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I'm just curious, if our goal is to get as close to 100%, to Mr. Lucas's point, in what ways are we sort of adapting our thinking or adapting the programs to make them more accessible to special education students who, you know, may have certain challenges with the requirements of certain courses, but doesn't mean they can't participate in any programs, but they may need some adaptation or some supports or special accommodations and things of that nature. So what is the thought process, or, you know, around trying to increase special education participation in these programs?
So it's a great idea. It is one of the areas that we're really starting to dig in. And I think when I presented the data last year with CTE, with special education, I presented it in a way that it showed the students that actually are not in a special program that would get the career readiness through the program that they're in, such as the Achieve. It has the work readiness program built into that program. And so those students wouldn't necessarily be eligible for the CTE completer pathway, for example, or the AP. So we really do need to start looking at really our special ed students and how well they're doing in our academics and improving the way they're performing at the elementary, middle, and high, so that they're prepared to take the advanced placement courses. And looking at the types of accommodations that we're offering our high achieving special education students, and making sure that they're appropriate to help them be successful. in these courses.
Yeah, and some of the things, and obviously we need to work with our special education population who are the experts on this, but some of the things that I've heard from the special education community like CCAC and parents is that it really begins with the criteria, the eligibility criteria, because a lot of the special education students are sort of, they're X'd out at that point because they can't meet the criteria. So they don't even get an opportunity to enroll into the programs because they don't meet the eligibility criteria. So perhaps we need to look at from the very beginning. It's just a suggestion that I have based on feedback that I've received from the special education community, that not necessarily looking at what types of programs, but starting from the beginning with the eligibility criteria and maybe adapting that in some way to the special education population. So just a suggestion there. And then one final question. So I love that the tests, increased, the AP tests increased, extensively. And just curious what we're hearing in terms of, since we're paying for the test now, what are the barriers to students taking tests? Is it just cost? Maybe they don't know that we're paying for the test now, or is it they don't feel prepared so they don't bother to take the test? Do we know what some of the barriers are that are preventing students from, having the numbers match how many are enrolled versus how many are taking the test?
So that's something that we'd have to dig into, because last year was the first year that we paid for all the students, and we've seen, when we're looking at the test, we've seen some courses where there's a higher percentage of students that took the test than others. And so we do need to figure that out, and why is that the case?
Okay, just wanted to
Yeah.
ask. So looking forward to more information about that. Thank you. That's all I have, Madam
Thank you,
Chair.
Ms. Raymond. Okay, 1 second. Okay. Yes. Okay, and real quick, Ms. Butler. Mr. Verk or Ms. Brenda Thomas, do you all have anything? I just want to give you an opportunity for people who haven't spoken. Okay, you can go after Ms. Bella Washington.
Just wanted to piggyback on what Ms. Kramer said about the special education. Saw some research where some schools was tailoring from the beginning their classes in their curriculum to better inclusive and make sure they include it into it. And it could be simple as them shattering the course, learning the communication, going out and making sure that they can be able to survive on their own without, and I know you say you was looking at internship. So just a suggestion is, if you just call a meeting and say, hey, business owners, come to the meeting. You can get your collective list going from there. You might not get all of them, but you can get some of them, so we can start the process of having internships for some of our students. So it might have to go outside of Charles County a little bit, but I think all are doing it just as long as they're participating. And I think the only barrier is the transportation for the child to get there. So, and I'm pretty sure, parents might say, that's not a barrier for me, but some might say, so we need to have a solution for that. But being inclusive at this day and age, we need to make sure that all population of students are included into all of our programs, not just saying, this is the curriculum of yesteryears, but with technology and, creative minds, I'm pretty sure we can come up with a program that can be inclusive to the special education need of people. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Verk.
Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask, with the numbers and, of course, wanting to get more involvement in the CTE programs.
Sam, I heard you're taking a lot of AP courses.
He's taking all the
So I wanted to ask, in light of the changes to the CTE programs upcoming, we do feel that it's going to boost the number of people taking the programs, because we're including new ones in the coming years, right?
Correct.
And 25 to 26 and 26 to 27. And one thing I wanted to clear up is something that people were asking me a lot is the changes that are coming with implementing dual enrollment into CTE programs with engineering and Cisco. The people that are enrolled as sophomores or juniors right now, or freshmen that are going to be juniors or seniors when the change is implemented, is that going to impact them as well, or is it going to only impact the incoming students? Because I'm wondering about people who are on the way that the CTE program is currently, and then when it changes, how is that going to work?
So that's a great question. So it really does depend on the program and depends on the amount of equipment that you need for those programs. The goal is to try to be as least disruptive for those students that are currently in those programs. But if a program does require us to move every bit of machinery that's in those programs to a different location, then we would have to move those other students so they could complete those programs as well. So we're currently looking at it program by program. I'm working with the CTE department because we had some of that discussion as to what programs do we actually have to move absolutely, and then what programs will we find a way to help our students finish out the program, the seniors in their current school, and graduate in that way.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I know Ms. Warren had something, and then Ms. Thomas.
So many things discussed, but I wanted to go back to the AP testing, and I heard you mention, like, if they fail the test, they do have an opportunity to take it over. Is that correct?
They can take the test again, yes.
Okay. And I wanted to know what, I think to Mr. Lucas's point, the goal is that every student graduate on one of 3 of those legs. What are the, or do we, I'm sure we do have things that prepares them, like for those who may fail the test. Do we have, just consistent preparation tools to make, for the kids to pass and be able to pass these national exams, local exams, or whatever? Are there things in place that are consistently preparing the kids to be successful?
Study things in place, but we are working on them actually. That's one of the things that we've heard, is that we need to provide more opportunities for our students. So one of the things that we're piloting this year at St. Charles High School is a AP seminar course. This is a course that focuses in on the skills that students need in order to be successful in an AP class. You have to tie it into a content class. And looking around the state, many of the LEAs, there's not many of them, but the ones that do offer it, they've tied it into English 10. And so that's what we're doing at St. Charles this year. We're going to pilot an AP seminar English 10 class where they'll focus in on the skills needed in order to be helpful and successful within the AP class. We do recognize that this is one of the areas we have to improve in.
Okay, thank you.
The goal is actually to get it out to all 7 high schools once we figure it out, because we have a very 2 great teachers that are working on this, and they're going to help develop actually the curriculum as we move forward and make things kind of try it out this year and put things in place so that when we do go to all 7 high schools, we'll have something to be able to share with all the high schools.
I think that's great, and that kind of piggybacks off that point. I wanted to kind of foot stomp something that my fellow board member, Ms. Kramer, said about special education students and relaxing the criteria. We know often that students who don't meet the floor criteria can't even have an opportunity. But something I learned, I read a couple articles this summer, and it was about students who in traditional high school struggle, get to college, and because the content is, let's say, delivered differently and delivered in a different way, oftentimes some of them are more successful in college than they were in high school, just because some of the data is presented in a different way. And so when we talk about the special education students, I think even like this piloting of an AP seminar course, putting some supports in place would help perhaps some of those special education students. And I have to, be very frank, we know special education is a very large spectrum, right? We have kids that, are nonverbal, all the way to kids that, they may have some challenges, but they also will score really high on some assessments. Mm-hmm. But I just, I love Ms. Creamer's point, and I think we should explore that more about what supports can we put in place to help the students, For example, a special education student who doesn't do well in English, then you put them in Spanish. And then they're going to struggle because they're struggling in English. But what do we do to wrap around services to support them? And sometimes it's what's in the IEP or how we can tweak those classes. They still meet the bar, but it's just they need more support. So I just really want us to investigate that too, because I think they just need the opportunity, because you never know what happens without having opportunities.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'll just make a couple of quick points. One question, on the same slide, number 11, similar to the special ed students, I also have concern about the farm students, because if unfortunately roughly half of our population are farm students, then I feel like that should be reflected here. Mm-hmm. Do we have any insight into why the farm students overall are not doing well? Or not as well as we would hope, let me say.
As far as the enrollment piece?
Mm-hmm. The enrollment, just, all of it, the enrollment, hopefully passing the courses, do we have any insight into that?
So we have been discussing it, and we are going up. There's a 3-year trend going up. We have been discussing why more of our students aren't in these advanced placement courses. We did, actually, when we started looking at accelerating students, one of the areas that we did look at was our students on free and reduced, because many of our students that were on free and reduced at the time were not identified for our gifted program. And so trying to put things in place to make sure that there's more opportunities for our students that are in the free and reduced meals category. So it is something that we're looking at, and it is something that we're trying to improve upon and put things in place to make sure that they're getting the opportunities.
Yeah, I would, and thank you for that. I would argue that for all of our specialty populations. I feel like they're oftentimes most vulnerable, so I want us to always keep that forefront. Thank you. And just, you've heard me beat this drum many times. For our students who have not considered dual enrollment, early college, this is basically free money. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Please do not turn it down. Many of you know my story. My oldest and only girl who has left her mother, sidebar, she is eligible. Yeah, well, depending on who you ask, right? She's on loan to college. Yeah, I know. She's on a loan, and hopefully she'll come back. But she is eligible to graduate an entire year early. She's going into what is her second year at Howard with 66 credits and like a 3.9 GPA. This is my retirement plan, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, she's just doing so well, despite COVID, despite all these other obstacles, because she felt very well prepared. And it's not to say that it was easy. We would never say that. But she felt prepared coming through the CSM program. So for any of our students in the back, any of our millions listening who have not seriously looked at this, please do. Because this prepares you in so many ways, not just to adjust well in whatever you choose to explore, but also is a huge cost savings. And as you know, just in the time since I graduated as a toddler, the cost of college has more than doubled. So I just want to really just reiterate that. But thank you very much, Mr. Lowndes, Mr. Roberts. This was excellent information. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Nice. Okay. Next up, Dr. Eileen Abel, the Executive Director of the University System of Maryland at Southern Maryland.
So as Dr. Abel's coming up, and I think Kevin's going to help her put up her presentation, please. I just wanted to welcome Dr. Abel. I, as the superintendent of the school system, actually sit on her board of advisors. The 3 superintendents from the Southern Maryland school system sit on her board of advisors, and so we work really well. And so I just want to thank Mr. Lucas for reminding me to bring her forward so that the community really knows about USMSM and the local opportunity that we have here. So thank you, Dr. Abel, and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chair Morley and Vice Chair Nicole, Ms. Kramer, Superintendent Namarro, and board members, thank you so much for inviting me to have this conversation with you today. Most importantly, though, let me thank you for the work that you do to support education in Charles County. I have been an educator for more years than I'd like to admit, but going into my 4th decade, mostly as a community college faculty member and administrator, running the higher ed center down in Southern Maryland. And you know, what we understand about education is sort of what Emerson said, is that it opens all doors and all opportunities. And as we start thinking about preparing students coming out of high school and what is next for them, and so I'm glad to have sat in on the CCR conversation. I took a ton of notes. When we look at the landscape of what's going to be changing over the next 10 and 15 years, we're preparing students not for work right now, because it's going to be vastly different in 10 years, right? What we need to do is to prepare students to be workers in the future. Anthony Carnival, who runs the Center for Education and the Workforce at Georgetown, says that in 2030, 80% of the jobs in the United States are going to require some post-secondary credential. Doesn't necessarily mean a bachelor's degree. Doesn't necessarily mean just a certificate, but it does mean they're going to need to do something after college. So the decisions that you're making right now to enable students to be able to perform well in their careers and in a post-secondary environment are going to be crucial. So what I'd like to do today is talk a little bit about USMSM, the University System of Maryland, at Southern Maryland as a regional higher ed center, how it serves Charles County, and why it is a Southern Maryland asset. And there'll be plenty of opportunities, I hope, at the end for you to ask some questions. So this is both the newest and the oldest of the regional higher ed centers. It was founded in 1998 primarily to serve the knowledge needs of Patuxent River and Naval Air Station, master's and PhD programs, particularly around flight test engineering and those kinds of things. In 2019, it came under the jurisdiction of the University System of Maryland. And with that came a new mission: to grow undergraduate programs to reach populations who may not think about going to school, and for whom a residential campus is not an option, for whom online learning is not an option, and for whom commuting up north to any of the schools up north is an impossibility. The second part of our mission is not just to grow undergraduate bachelor's completion programs, but also to serve still the knowledge needs of the base through the University of Maryland College Park Matrix Lab, which is focused primarily around autonomous systems and technology. So we have a dual mission to support the research, College Park, but also to really grow undergraduate programs to meet the workforce needs in the area. What makes us unique is not just the Matrix Lab that we have, which brings in academia and government and students, but also that we actually have engaged into a long-term lease with Kennedy Krieger Institute, which you all know serves students who have severe and profound disabilities. It means that students in the Tri-County area don't necessarily have to travel to Baltimore to get the school that they need. This coming fall right now, they're anticipating serving about 30 students. Maximum, they'll serve about 55. It's just a small start, but it's a great opportunity for us to show how we are serving students. What it also means is that as we start talking about bringing a special education program down here at the master's level, it means that educators can use Kennedy Krieger as a learning site, how to work with those students to make sure that they know what they're doing in their own classrooms. In addition, the social work students through the University of Salisbury are connected with Kennedy Krieger to help support the students and the family. So again, it's become this kind of incubator down there. What we also do is to offer only programs that are high demand and high need in the area. So we work with 6 university systems. We offer a handful of programs, again, through these university partnerships that offer access and opportunity to students, again, for whom online isn't possible, for whom commuting isn't possible, and for whom a residential campus is simply not reasonable. So for students, what we know is that the reason they want to go to college is that they can get better job prospects and be prepared to go into the workforce. Again, we only offer programs through our 6 university partners that lead directly to employment. But we also know the conversation across the country right now is the greatest concern about whether or not college is worth it is the cost and the relevance, right? So what we do, we only offer bachelor's completion programs. We don't offer the first 2 years. But every single one of our programs is run in conjunction with the College of Southern Maryland. So every single one of the bachelor's completion programs has an articulation agreement with the College of Southern Maryland. What that means is, as Chair Morley mentioned a minute ago, students can come in at low cost, finish their first 2 years, transfer at low cost to one of our programs down here, and there's huge employment on the backside. What I'll show you in a few minutes is what some of the demand is in Southern Maryland for some of the programs that we run and some of the programs that we're planning to offer here in the next couple of years. But let me tell you why this matters. And this isn't going to be a surprise to you, but I want to reiterate about why it's so important for us to think about educational opportunities in Southern Maryland. 34% of our population is below the ALICE level, right? Asset limited, income constrained, and employed. It means people are essentially living paycheck to paycheck, right? So this is from the United Way ALICE report. This is from 2022. We have only about a 7% poverty rate. I mean, I'm sorry, only like that's somehow acceptable, right? But we have a 7% poverty rate in Southern Maryland, but it's much higher, particularly in places like in St. Mary's County, where the Black and Latino populations have 16 and 20% poverty rates, respectively. We also know the cost of living in Southern Maryland, we experience this every day, is huge, right? So for a family of 4, you have to have a salary of almost $100,000 with 2 working adults, and that covers things like transportation, childcare costs, et cetera. 2 working adults making minimum wage won't make half that. So it's no surprise that the ALICE level is that high, right? Well, we also know, and these numbers are national numbers and they're 2018, so they're a little bit outdated and they're not specific to Southern Maryland. But if you look at those, so the green actually is what the average salaries are if you have a bachelor's degree or a degree, and the blue numbers on the left are actually the unemployment rate. And this is also from 2018 from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So what we know is if you finish a bachelor's degree, you're going to have much more stable employment. You're also, over the course of your life, going to make a lot more money. So as I mentioned, all of our programs lead from the College of Southern Maryland and articulate into one of the 6 schools that we're in partnership with. Only 19% of Southern Maryland has a bachelor's degree. So 19% of the total population has a bachelor's degree. More than 30% of the jobs in Southern Maryland require a bachelor's degree as the entry-level credential. You know there are people down here who are screaming to have workers with that credential so that they can actually continue the business that they do. So what we're trying to do is to build very deliberate pathways from high schools to the College of Southern Maryland to USMSM programs, and ideally with accelerated opportunities. So students can do dual enrollment in early college and high school and come to CSM with anywhere between 30 and 60 credit hours, transfer into the programs at USMSM, and we hope get some work-based learning opportunity and go straight out into the workforce. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but I wanted to make sure that you saw what some of the high demand areas are in this area. So particularly management, business finance, education, no surprise, you guys hear this every single day, and almost anything to do with computers, whether it's cyber, computer science, programming, software, or IT management. If I don't have these programs on here, I can tell you, I'm working on bringing them down. So my ask of you is to continue to support the innovative programming that you all are encouraging between high schools and the College of Southern Maryland, because we all benefit from that. I also ask that you try to connect us to organizations and employers that can help us with, are we making sure that we're meeting the workforce skills that employers need? Are there some work-based learning opportunities that we can connect from high school to CSM to our programs down at the center? One of my goals is to try to ensure that students who come to us have the opportunity to offset the cost either through internship or work-based learning or scholarships that we're trying to build right now through the University System of Maryland Foundation. We also know that a huge barrier, and I've heard it up here today, is transportation. So even though it's not as bad a commute to get down to California, it's about 35 minutes from La Plata where I live, it's much better than going up to College Park or Baltimore where you have to get your psychic energy to even think about heading north, right? We know that transportation is a barrier for numbers of students. So I was at CSM for 6 years. I know it was a barrier there, and I know it will continue to be a student, but continue to affect our students in that way. But we also know that this is one of the best opportunities for students to be able to succeed and to be able to get into high-demand, high-wage careers. One of our signature programs down there actually is our engineering program. So the College of Southern Maryland actually has a statewide agreement with the University of Maryland College Park. They have engineering agreements with other schools as well, but particularly with the University of Maryland College Park, where a student who graduates high school can transfer to CSM, finish either a mechanical or an electrical engineering degree, apply to go to College Park, take all of their courses at our center, and apply for an internship at PAX, which is 7 miles down the road from our building. What that means is, particularly if a student comes through dual enrollment opportunities, they don't pay College Park fees, they don't pay the residents, and the PACs will pay not just through tuition, but also pay them a salary. You can essentially get through college at excruciatingly small cost with job skills and a guaranteed job on the backside if you're successful in your internship and successful in passing your program. 94% of the students who've gone through that engineering program and worked at the base are still there because there are opportunities for them. It also means that they know what Southern Maryland is because they're local, and it means that we can keep them here better. The base is incredibly invested in growing these kinds of opportunities, and we're looking at ways for us right now to do that with computer science and with cyber. So, I thank you again. I hope you have a great year, and I am open for questions.
Thanks for that, Dr. Abel. I think that was a great presentation. You talked a lot about this, the transition through, high school, then to do that. And we know students get, young people, I'm gonna call them young people, they get lost, right? They get like, I was gonna do this, and then, what kind of supports would be good to have in place so that students can continue on that trajectory of being able to say, I was dual enrollment and now I'm here, and what courses and how do I get ready to continue on the next steps? Because there's some kids who have this idyllic, I go off to college and stay in a dorm and I'm away from my parents. And how do you help those students not get lost in that, transition from being in one program to getting the credits to go into the next program? Do you guys have supports in place to help that?
So a couple things. So I have, since we transitioned into the university system, we were primarily a graduate center, and we didn't need to have those people in place, as you can imagine, because most of them were already working, right? They knew why they were coming back to finish a master's and PhD. So we're planning right now on working with the university system to figure out better ways for us to be much more student-focused and student-centered. But I will say that so much of this also needs to happen before we start. So I now, have hired an undergraduate program pathway coordinator who will be doing some recruiting, but who also will be working with students to make sure they're connected to their home schools. So unfortunately right now what this means is the students get advising, they get career counseling with their home institutions, but our home institutions are 6 university partners. I call them home institutions. They are completely committed to working with those students, and there are people who are specifically identified to help those students to make sure that they stay on the path to do their, to make sure that they're taking the right courses. I will also say, because we have very small classes down here, that their opportunity to work and be connected with full-time faculty who work down there and teach in those courses is bar none. So one of our electrical engineering faculty member always says he teaches at College Park, and he also teaches down at USMSM. He's got 250 students in an introductory engineering lecture class. When he comes down here, he's got anywhere between 6 and 12, depending on how big the cohort is. So students actually can get individualized attention. And I will also say, I can't tell you right now exactly what the retention rates are, but students who come down here will tell you many of them have transferred down from places like College Park or over from UMES or from Salisbury to take our programs because they didn't want to be just anonymous in the larger institutions where they were. So I will say that one of the things that our undergraduate program pathway coordinator has done is connected with your career counselors and your college counselors to make sure that she's talking to them about opportunities, local opportunities for us. And we're also highly connected with CSM, both in their advising as well as their marketing and their faculty. So all of that said, you know, it takes a village, right? It's not just one small thing that's going to do it. It's nurturing students and helping to increase their interests from 7th, 8th, 9th grade, making sure that by the time they graduate high school that they have the skills and the tools and the knowledge to make those successful transitions, right, into the opportunities that we know are available. My job is to ensure that when students do feel like they might be faltering, that we immediately put some connections in place, connect them with their home institution. If their faculty can help us identify that they might need to have some help or some supports. So we're not where we want to be yet, but we're getting there.
Thanks so much, because, you know, as you talked about these home institutions, I just thought, you know, a student who actually is going to Coppin but here, like, what's that gap as to whether they feel like they belong here or there. And I know sometimes that disconnect is the things that students will cause a student to drop out, right? And so that's why I asked that question, because we want to translate that to how we start to groom our students. So if they go through these programs, we can, like you said, start before they get to you, but then help them have the continuity to keep going. So thanks for that.
So can I just add that, so we have very deliberately partnered with Bowie and with Coppin. The HBCUs connect with students very well, and it was incredibly important to us, particularly as we're talking about trying to grow the underserved populations in Southern Maryland in these high-need programs. It was really important that they be at the table with us to ensure that the students get what they need.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Ms. Kramer and then Mr. Lucas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Abel, for being here and for your presentation. So just a couple of questions. So curious, there used to be classes for the University of Maryland offered in Waldorf. Is this like an extension of that or some reinvention of that program? Because you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, so it is sort of a reinvention. So University of Maryland was never there. Global Campus was there. And it was when it was UMUC, and Towson was there for education. So two things happened, and I actually happened to be the academic officer at CSM when we closed it, when we closed Waldorf, in part because with the advent of online education, there was less need. Originally, the location was decided because we thought we would be able to get commuters who were coming down from DC or from Northern Virginia who would stop there and take classes. So with the online, more online education, it meant that there was not as much demand up there. But also it was in an area that was not accessible by transportation, and that also, particularly the classes were mostly in the evening. Students and faculty did not feel safe. And so in 2019, when the USMSM opened under the university system, both the education through Towson as well as the UMGC courses all went down to our center.
Okay, so you did sort of kind of reinvent.
It is, and expanded, yes.
Okay, well that's good. That's good to hear. And just curious, like, do you attend career or college fairs? Have you attended them at the local high schools?
So I now have a recruiter who can do that. We used to do it pretty anemically. I have a very, very small staff, and it would have been incumbent on me to attend those things. But now that we have a staff person on board, she is, like I said, working with all of the school systems and ensuring that she's going to be there at those programs and events.
Okay, because that would be a great opportunity for you to connect with students. And, since, if I'm a student and I'm thinking about going to CSM, but then not sure what I would do after that, this could sort of provide them the full picture. I could go here and then transfer to USMSM. So I think that's a great opportunity to connect with students who, this might be the right path for them. And lastly, what's the tuition there?
So it depends on the home institution. So the tuition is not differentiated between where we are and what they would charge at the home institution.
Gotcha.
What is different are the fees.
Okay.
A few of the universities may charge a minimal fee because, again, the students access things like mental health counseling and advising and things like that.
Okay.
Most of the schools do not charge fees. I don't know what the policy is going to be this fall, so I can't be distinct about that, but the tuition is the same.
Okay.
It just means that they're not paying all of the other additional costs, including things like housing.
Okay.
So I think, one of the things, and to your question, Ms. Thomas, I think one of the things that we have to remember is I know people have this romantic notion of what college is all about. But I also think it's really important for us to have conversations with students and their families about, it's expensive to be in a dorm. Now, it's true that you can have sort of a rich social life, but if your number one priority is job preparation and relevance, you cannot beat the programs, some of the best programs and institutions in the state offered at our center that lead directly to employment at relatively low cost.
Fantastic. Mr. Lucas, you had something?
Yeah, please, thank you. So thank you for the presentation. That's a great segue. This hits home for me personally on a lot of levels. So I started off going to community college, and then I graduated from the University of Maryland at College Park. I never lived on campus. I had to commute every day. It was miserable then. It's twice as miserable now with the traffic. And then when you get there, my gosh, you still got to park someplace and walk half a mile to your building. So I've been to the campus, and you're despite everything, you're still underselling it. The buildings are I believe relatively new. They're state of the art. You mentioned the class size. The other thing, not everyone is on a 4-year plan to get a degree for whatever reason. And so this allows you the flexibility with that. And you mentioned Pax River. Still close by, we have obviously Naval Surface Warfare Center in Indian Head and in Dahlgren, where I worked for most of my career. And those are other opportunities that to be able to get employment with the education that you're getting even before you graduate, and then transition there full-time upon graduation. And then, when we look at our community, our county, we all may have different visions or reasons of what we believe graduating high school is about, but for me, I want people to ultimately be able to stay here and live here and work here. And when we're giving people the tools so they can get these good paying jobs, and they're going to contribute to the tax base, and so that it provides the things that everyone that we hear that we want. Why don't we have this? Why don't we have this kind of amenity in the county? Well, it all takes money, but if we have a population that is given an opportunity to get this education and ultimately a job, it's just a win-win for everybody. So I just really just want to applaud you for your work. I think this is great, and I had a full circle experience. I went and I got blood work the other day, and there was a young lady, and she graduated from La Plata a couple years ago, and then she was in some sort of health science CTE program here, and she's now at CSM and has an internship, I guess, at LabCorp. Shout out to LabCorp for employing them, and she drew my blood, and she's going to go to University of Maryland after that. So, that's the kind of story we want to talk about, that you don't have to leave here to be able to get that quality education, and all that's going to lead to a good paying job that can support you and your family. So thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you very much. Ms. Smith.
Hello, Dr. Abel. Apologies for missing the first part of your presentation, but I did have a chance to review the slides, and we'll be looking at the video after this. But just piggybacking, what Mr. Lucas just shared, I think we may have had the same attendant, because I have a similar story. I know exactly what you're talking about. Was very proud of this young lady for working in the county. But I do want to ask, just piggybacking on Ms. Kramer's question, you mentioned kind of working and looking to reach students who are potentially furthest from opportunity. And I'm curious about what strategies might be helpful in kind of getting access to those students or getting the information to those students and their families just to help them understand. I think many of us campaigned on expanding access and opportunity for all kids in the system. So definitely wanting to understand, like, how do you reach and kind of target outreach, of course, to all students, but in particular those students who may believe like college may be out of reach, whether it's financial, whether it's distance, whether it's I have to stay local, whatever that story may be, but feeling as if college may not be for them. Like, how do you reach those students?
So, you know, it's such a good question. I wish I had an easy answer. We could be talking about this for hours, but I'll give you just a couple ideas. So one, we do work in close partnership with CSM because that's the first step, right? But it's more than that. It's also what your faculty and what your staff does every single day to encourage students. You know what, you're good at that, you need to explore that, you may want to consider those things more. I also think that one of the things that you know, I know that the blueprint allows for, or is actually mandating this, and that is to do some really serious career exploration. That has to come with aptitude, right? Not just the I might be interested in this. Do I have the aptitude for this? And if not, what are some of the alternatives, right? What are some of the alternatives? And I think that so much of what we need to do is to ensure that people can see themselves in opportunity. So if we look at some of the demographics, for example, in the workforce in Southern Maryland right now. So I use a really fabulous database called Lightcast, and it helps me look at the labor market data. It's where that panel came up from. And what we can see is a look at, you know, how many males, how many females, what do the demographics look like in terms of race and ethnicity distributions. And this isn't going to surprise anybody. The high-tech fields in Southern Maryland dominated by men and dominated primarily by white people. And so what we know is to have a better workforce and actually to reflect the demographics in our changing population in Southern Maryland, we know we need to get people into some of these programs. Now, I am highly encouraged that College Park actually ran a summer camp this summer that was 2 weeks called Future Problem Solvers, and it was all around engineering. It's an application-based program. It was heavily represented by women and heavily represented by students of color. There were about 12 students from Charles County. I don't know how many farm students were in there. We did ask the faculty to try to collect some of that information next year. But it is a way for students to see themselves represented in the opportunity. They aren't necessarily engineering students. There were a lot of them there who might be interested in business, some people who might just be interested in math or biology. But it was a way for them to get in, to work with a cohort, and to think about what it might look like to work in these kinds of spaces. So I think that, again, one of the things that I mentioned a minute ago is that we have deliberately partnered with HBCUs. Bowie is a new partner down there. Coppin is a new partner down there. And part of what we know they do is to nurture students in these fields. So part of what we're trying to do is to work on some strategies on some outreach that the students then can identify themselves as Bowie students early on, Coppin students early on, you know, even Towson students early on. But I will also say that it's not just representations of color, it's also representations of gender. If we look at what's happening in the social services, it's almost all women. If you look at what's happening in our education program, it's almost all women, right? So what we're trying to do is to grow populations of students into all of those areas that reflect who we are in Southern Maryland. I'm happy to have any strategies you can think about. Again, I've got a recruiter right now, but we do work in partnership with CSM and with our universities to try to do as much exposure as possible to try to get students in the door and recognize that they can be successful in college. Now, I will say, so it's interesting listening to the conversation about AP and dual enrollment. So I am a strong proponent, much stronger proponent for dual enrollment than I am for AP. Because you're going to get students in there who aren't necessarily good test takers, who can do really, really well in a college level classroom, who are not going to do very well in an AP. And if you want to reach underserved students who may have confidence issues, push them into dual enrollment and not AP. Just saying. Long-term college educator here. It's one of the if you know what, AP is perfect for students who know that they're going to be going to the University of New Hampshire and they're going to be majoring in, you know, environmental science. Mm-hmm. Perfect. It's not for everybody, but dual enrollment is.
Food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bella Washington.
Thank you so much. I was writing this to Dr. Navarro to ask her a question, and you came up, Dr. Abel. This remind me of track programs where they had students as early as in 6th grade. Do you want to go to college? Do you want to go to check up a trade, or do you just want to go to workforce? Pick which one you want to go. And they strategized and had those all the way to 8th grade to do it. So when they got to 9th grader, you know your mind changed.
Right.
And then you do it again. Right. And it set those kids up where they got to do exactly what they wanted to do. And the graduation rate where it has like couple who's going to college and who's going to the military, and the rest of the like 80% with nothing on the side of it, they captured all those kids. That's what I would like to see. Capture those students that we don't normally capture. Yeah. So having a program like this to follow from high school all the way to CSM to your program, you will capture those kids. Because they are the ones that don't vocally say, I'm going to college, I'm going this. They are the ones that say, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I don't see anything that resemble, or no one can help me do whatever. Yes. But by paving it out like you have paved it out, and we have to be a component of that, yes, meaning that we push them to CSM. Also, we have to bring your information in and say, after CSM, guess where you can go to get your other your 4-year degree. And you did your 2 here and you do it here. So it encompasses all of us to work together to capture those many students that do not have a plan for after school. Because what I want to do is make sure that when they leave Charles County, not that they just go get a job, but they can come back and say, they had a plan for me. Yeah. And the plan was high school, CFSM, and then to go to your university. Because when you don't have that set up, what kids do is okay, I know what I'm doing in high school, and I'm going to I don't know what to do. I don't want to go to a 4-year college. My mother don't have and father don't have money like that, so we know we can't go there. But if you set up a trajectory where everybody can have a place to go, we would capture a majority of those students who don't have nothing beside their names. Yeah. So this is a win-win situation for me.
Thank you. Oh, final point, Ms. Thomas.
I just have one other question, because you talked about partnerships, and down in California in their PACs, there's Deloitte, CACI, SAIC, Accenture, right? Are you starting those partnerships with the consulting firms? Because I know they do a lot of internship programs that are available to students, or they're always looking for students. So are you starting that?
So yeah, so this is one of those things that yes. So the short answer is yes. It's going to take a little bit of time for us to do that. So right now, our only engineering pathway is with the engineering with PACs, and that's the paid internship again that covers the tuition, that covers that. So we've got business majors, and we're working on bringing business finance. So we are working with the contractors not just for engineering, but also for some of these other programs as well. And again, my goal would be for every single student that there is a work-based learning opportunity that would either pay tuition or at least give them some kind of a salary, work experience to make them job ready on day one. So we are growing those programs. It's going to take us a little bit of time to do that. Okay. I mean, I started in December of 20.
Okay.
COVID?
Just go, yeah.
COVID?
Right.
You know, and part of our complication is that a lot of, our mostly graduate programs decided that they could offer their graduate programs online.
Right.
So we don't have as many graduate programs as we used to, but we also know that the benefits of at least hybrid learning, where you have some face-to-face as well as the flexibility of online, are the best way for students to learn. It's a national study by the New York Times. We have amazing technology, as Mr. Lucas alluded to. We have amazing technology in our rooms down at the center. But we are very closely working with the Southern Maryland Navy Alliance and some of the internship programs that they're building with some money that they got from the U.S. Navy to help support some of the program development.
Okay, so that would be one of my things. I would love for us to trickle that this way into Charles County, right? Absolutely. You know, we could send a couple students to go down and intern at Deloitte or one of the consultant firms. They can learn data science, or, you know, so definitely a place for our students to go, find places to go. And then the other thing is, I'm just going to throw out there food for thought, Junior Achievement Finance Park. They have a lot of things that are available for students. They have a couple finance parks. They have one in PG County, one in Fairfax. Could need one in Southern Maryland. It might be able to use your building. Just food for thought. So then our students can participate too.
Yeah, I love
So
it.
about 25% of our students do come from Charles County. One of I don't know if you ever look at our website, but one of the people we feature on our website is Cornelius Hightower, who's a graduate from St. Charles High School. He went through the CSM program. He's working at the base right now, and he says he wouldn't be an engineer unless he had this program. Right? So it's good stuff. So I'm so grateful for your support. Feel free to mention to Dr. Navarro if you've got some ideas, ways that we can help support students into these pipelines, if we can connect them with employers, anything that you'd like to know. I welcome you anytime to come down to the center for a tour. I'd be happy to have you. I'm so grateful for your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, this was fantastic. Just a couple of quick points. I very much appreciate your passion. I was this student. I graduated high school at 17 in a couple months. No idea what I wanted to do. Lived my very best life in my first year of college. Everything except class. Everything except. And went to community college and kind of had to make my own way. So I very much appreciate that you have a niche market and you're helping those underserved populations. And I was just making a note of all the barriers that you're removing. Transportation, the endless commute, being able to still take it in person, which for a lot of people, they don't learn online very well. And then also the cost, which is considerable, for many people as to why they don't ultimately pursue a degree. And looking at the very real numbers in terms of what the difference is, which you can earn when you have your bachelor's compared to some college or just a GED. So it's fantastic. Thank you again to Mr. Lucas for introducing you to us. And also, I also need to visit. And finally, I would say I also serve on the board at the United Way of Southern Maryland. So Alice is our jam. That's where we live. And so fully appreciate these underserved populations and what this means for people and being able to remove some of these generational, barriers. It's phenomenal. It actually really makes me emotional. So thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you again.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Heim, and I believe you'll be joined by Mr. Andretz. All right, welcome, gentlemen. We're getting there. I think we need to be able to do these resolutions quickly. Do a brief earlier. I'm not about to say.
Good afternoon, board members and Dr. Navarro. I am joined today by Steve Andretz, our Director of Planning and Construction. And Steve and I are here today to present the FY26 CIP Capital Improvements Program. This is the first step, so today is a report item. Next month will come back. Today's an information item. Next month will come back as a report item. This is the first step in the approval process before we have to submit it to the IAC, the Interagency Commission on School Construction, before October 4th in the fall. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Steve. You do see on our title page, TC Martin, the renovation. We're excited last week on Thursday, August the 8th, to receive the temporary UNO for staff and students to occupy the building. So that means we can move in and occupy the building before the start of the school year.
Okay.
Good afternoon. As Mr. Heim mentioned, we're here to talk about the FY 2026 Capital Improvements Program submission for Charles County, and this is our report item. So we have a brief slideshow for you, as well as the information that was on the board docs. So just to overview, we are required every year to submit a capital improvements program to the Interagency Commission on public school construction by October 4th. This year it's October 4th of 2024. And then we have a local submission that follows shortly thereafter, usually around October 15th. All of our capital projects that we'll be talking about here related to the state also have a required local match. So part of that local submission would be their share of any state eligible projects. The CIP is developed following the state guidelines. They lay out for us all the detailed information about what kind of projects qualify, what we need for planning approvals. As an example, any new school, brand new or full renovation of a school, any programmatic addition such as a kindergarten or pre-K addition, all require planning approvals prior to the state authorizing construction funding. So all of those are laid out to us in the guidelines for each year of the capital programs. And also, sorry, just a minute. Just also, the county is generally going to want us to have our planning approvals before they commit to construction approvals, and they're going to want us to have the state construction funds lined up when they start funding so that we can then commit to the projects and continue to build them in a reasonable construction duration time. The county does do some forward funding once the state has made a commitment. And as an example, when I just mentioned like St. Charles High School, that was a project that took the state 6 years to pay back their share. And the county gave us the money in advance to cover the 2-year construction duration and got reimbursed. The county continued to get reimbursed on the back end all the way along the process.
And for FY26, the state versus county share breaks down. 64% of the funding comes from the state and 36% comes from the county. And that is based on a formula that the IAC uses looking at the county's wealth.
And that percentage share is really about the construction of the facility. That does not include the design funds. That does not include the purchase of land. That does not include the FF&E, the technology, the equipment, the books, all of those things. Those are part of the total project that the county shares in, not necessarily the state. So just a couple of notes here on this slide. The EFMP informs the CIP, and so you'll see there are projects here that follow over from that. And then considerations when we move forward, obviously we're looking to address capacity for overcrowding within physical constraints. We're looking at renovations and additions at schools to try to bring older buildings into the same level as new buildings as far as their educational adequacies. And we're also looking for timely accomplishments of systemic renovation. So how old is that roof? When does it need to be replaced? Do we have a lot of issues with leaks? Systemics generally are generally applied to HVAC projects, roofs, windows, electrical gear, things of that nature. Okay, go ahead. So now we have a list of projects for you. I'm not going to read the entire list, but what I will comment here, one significant change from last year is La Plata High School. La Plata High School renovation project was a phased project similar to what we were doing currently at McDonough. However, through a lot of discussions with the county, with growth pressures that are happening around La Plata, we're actually going to be pushing forward a project at La Plata that is a full modernization project. So we need the planning approvals, and the construction funding has slid back because we have to do a full design of a project. So that is our #1 request with planning, but it is not a funding request as it was last year. So that is one change we want to highlight. When you look at this list, there are 5 planning requests for FY26, and they are La Plata High School, several kindergarten, pre-K additions, and the middle school number 10. Then we have 4 construction projects that we're asking for funding on them. 2 of them are continuations of current projects, and then 2 are new projects. And then we have 6 projects where we'll be asking the county for local A&E design funds to begin projects. Most of those are systemic related projects. Our 4 construction projects right now total approximately $8 million. But again, all this is subject to change. It may go up, it may go down. We may slide another project in. The state share may change slightly by what they see eligible or ineligible, but as a rough idea, that's what we're looking at right now.
So just for a little bit of elaboration, so the $8 million that's funding from the state, but when you look at the overall value of current projects that we have going on in Charles County right now, we have over $128 million worth of projects occurring in the county right now, with the T.C. Martin renovation, with the construction of Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School, and then you throw in, as Steve mentioned, a couple of these other projects listed on there, the Smallwood HVAC and roof replacement. If you throw in a local funded project, Picklewaxon, which is a $13 million open space enclosure, and then roughly $17.8 million for the McDonough project. So again, we have projects occurring right now totaling over $128 million.
So the CIP, as it gets presented, is intended to be a 5-year look. So what you're actually seeing here are a continuation of those out years of projects. The state will look at this, but they really aren't doing anything beyond the current year of what they're considering for funding. The county will take more of a careful look at these list of projects as they look at it within their affordability of their 5-year window. But again, this is all informed by our educational facilities master plan projects. And then we have a couple local projects. I just want to spend a second talking about those. So we have the first one, which is various maintenance projects. This is a fund we get every year from the county that we use to pay for equipment that needs replacement. As an example, it may be a chiller, it may be a cooling tower, it may be a piece of electrical gear, it may be something like that. It's not where you're doing a whole replacement of a system, but it may be one component that needs to be done. And it's much larger price than, say, you can handle out of just taking it out of the hit out of maintenance's budget. So this is a line item the county has given us every year, and it continues, and we're asking for it to continue for the next 5 years. The next one is local relocatable classrooms. So this is money that we get every year from the county to move around relocatable classrooms or to make repairs or renovations to existing portable classrooms. The third one, site infrastructure replacement, is one we've asked for that has not been funded. We've asked for it for the last 3 years. We're going to continue to ask for it. This is for upgrades to stormwater management type features, paving, site lighting, things like that at any variable site that we could do. The next one, electrical switchgear, is to do, as it says, replace the main electrical distribution gear in a building. These are costly projects that require significant coordination and design, especially when you factor in the requirements from the state now that anytime you impact electrical gear, if your school is considered a school for an emergency shelter, you've got to go through a process of making sure that that complies and you can function that way. So these are projects, especially as some of the buildings continue to get older, that if we're not renovating right away, we may need to look at some gear replacements. We've thankfully been able to do 2 very recently. With at Christmas time last year, we did the La Plata High School switchgear, and we just did McDonough's over the summer, Maurice J. McDonough's over the summer break. So these are, again, costly projects that require long downtimes, usually as much as a week of no power in a building to get them done. And the last one is school facilities modernization. These would be small projects we would look at doing where you could add educational spaces, collaboration spaces into older buildings where they don't have them. These are design elements that you get in new buildings that don't exist in some of these older buildings. So this would be an opportunity for a project like that. These last 3 are ones that we've asked for, as I mentioned, for like the last 3 years from the county. They just have not been able to be put into the affordability, but we've gotten a lot of other projects with the county. We did want to spend a minute to talk about what those mean.
And we did receive some target information from the IAC within the last week. So our 10-year average has been adjusted, so it's now approximately 9.2 million. So if you look over the last 10 years, the average value of what we received on an annual basis from the IAC has been 9.2 million. Plus also we receive additional funding, which is about approximately 1.7 million over the last several years through the enrollment growth and relocatable classroom. And that's because Charles County has more than 250 relocatable classrooms in use in our school system.
So that was the end of our presentation. Obviously, this is an introduction for you guys for this year for our capital project, and we would then open it up for any questions or comments you may have.
All right, one quick question. The approximate amount for on slide 5, the 3 projects, 3, 4, and 5, you said that have not been funded. Do you have an approximate amount of how much money that represents?
The local projects,
Yes.
They were under $500,000 each per year we were asking for. I don't have the exact number. We can get that for you.
Okay, I'm just curious. Yeah. All right, thank you. Okay, Ms. Smith and Ms. Thomas.
Thank you for the presentation. Always excited to hear more about like what's happening in our buildings relative to keeping them up to date and keeping them safe for teachers and students. But speaking about students, my mind always goes to like, are there opportunities for our students in these projects? Recognizing that they're not licensed, so obviously they can't handle the electricity or they can't be on roofs. There's a variety of barriers there in terms of keeping them safe. But are there opportunities for them to be exposed to what we're building, what we're putting in our systems? I know that we have a number of CTE programs around construction, design, so just opportunities for them to expand and better see like what's happening real time in their school system, in their schools, and some of the work that you all do.
So we had a former Lackey student during the renovation and expansion of Benjamin Stoddard Middle School that worked with one of the subcontractors on that project. At the time, it was not something that was arranged through the school system, but that student was working with one of the subcontractors. We have been working with Sandy Rooney, who's in the Office for Career and Technology, and through a program through the state of Maryland with some apprenticeship programs. So we've had some ongoing discussions with Sandy about that. We also, including Steve's had some discussions with her about having someone work in our office, in the planning construction office, under an apprenticeship program. So those discussions are ongoing, yes.
And I can also say that we've had conversations. I recall last summer there were some things we were doing, or excuse me, 2 summers ago, there were some things we were doing at Steedham, and we were talking with some of the students that were actually working there about opportunities and what those things mean with the work that we do for the school system. I also know that some of the trade programs, for example, say the electrical program at North Point, they partner directly with the unions, and so they offer opportunities for students potentially to come out and work with them. And so there are opportunities. It's not necessarily directly through us, but there are those opportunities through some of those programs.
No, I appreciate that. I know several of my colleagues, we've toured some of the programs offered at North Point, and we saw like the tiny homes that were built and, you know, all of the different things the students are engaged in. And while those are kind of contained projects within their schools, having the opportunity to shadow or to see or to visit or to tour or whatever it may look like, I think could, you know, pique their interest even further in thinking about how they can apply what they're learning in high school into the real world once they get out there and, you know, get beyond college. So thank you.
Thanks for this presentation. I thought it was really good to see. I've been waiting for TC Martin to open. I'm excited because I ride down that road often, so I get to just see the work. You talked about moving the Plata project up to phase 1, and you've moved that. And I kind of, for the benefit of myself, but also the public, on, you know, how does the prioritization go for project scheduling? Like you talked a little bit about La Plata. There's a increase in population, so you felt that you needed to, you know, kind of move that up in scheduling. But, you know, parents may hear that and say, but what about my elementary school that still has this open floor concept that we're hoping that we don't have, you know, these partitions? And when I walk through the schools with the open floor concepts, because I'm really tall, I see over all the classrooms and all the kids, and I can hear everything, right? And the kids are like, who is that tall lady? But so I just think about, right, you know, when we talk about modernization, how can we like sprinkle in modernization with also some of these other, like, I get it, roofs, boilers, HVAC, gotta do it. But, you know, just how can we do that so our parents are like, it feels modern in here, it's open, it's brighter, the kids are learning better, you know what I mean?
So we'll start with the open space concept. So I discussed Pickawaxen, which is a locally funded, it's a $13 million project. So that is all funding from the county commissioners. So we approached Jake Dyer and Jenny Ellen in the budget office several years ago about the possibility of doing several open space enclosure projects. And they were very receptive to that, and they pushed that with the commissioners, and the commissioners approved that. So we have funding for the project, which is current at Pickawaxen. We're in year 2 of that, so that's work we can only do during the summertime. It gets very disruptive with tearing down the partitions and putting up the walls and all the supporting infrastructure that needs to be in place to enclose a classroom. So we are closing close to 20, including classrooms and office areas, over 20 spaces in Pickawaxen this summer. We did 8 classrooms last summer. Very aggressive, almost to the point where I was losing sleep during the month of July, especially before the 4th of July. We went down there to see what was happening at Pickawaxen a number of times. But we have the fire marshal scheduled for this week and the county inspector, so we hope to have the occupancy and permit for that by the end of the week. But we also have, we're working on design right now for Indian Head's open space enclosure. We have funding for that. And then the last of the 3 locally funded open space enclosure projects will be at James Craig Elementary School. So at that point, we will have truly enclosed all of our true open space areas. Keep in mind with some of the recent renovations that we've completed over the last 8 years, which not only added capacity at those schools, but also enclosed those areas. So Benjamin Stoddard Middle School was a former open space school. And Mudd Elementary School was another open space. We did Brown Elementary School over a 1 year. So over the last 8 years, we've enclosed several of our open space schools. And but in terms of prioritizing, one of the number one thing is where we have capacity issues. So, currently with the, we discussed earlier, elementary school number 23, Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School, that's addressing capacity issues at the elementary level. So that's going to help provide relief, as we know, through the redistricting process for those schools that will feed into it, particularly Middleton Elementary School. So with the La Plata High School, why it has moved up on the list, we've addressed, or we are addressing capacity issues at the elementary school level with Margaret Jameson Thornton. We've addressed capacity issues with the renovation at Benjamin Stoddard and the added capacity. We added over 200 to that state-rated capacity at Benjamin Stoddard. Plus, along with that, the countywide redistricting we did. So at this point, we feel pretty comfortable with where we are with our middle school numbers, but we don't feel comfortable right now as at the high school level. So St. Charles High School, which is being funded through year-end fund balance money, we're adding 8 relocatable classrooms. We're adding a modular unit there, so that's currently under design with the hopes that will begin construction in the spring, with completion in the summertime to be ready for use for the start of next school year 25-26. So that will help us with capacity issues and the enrollment we're seeing at St. Charles. But we need to address the enrollment growth that we're going to see at La Plata High School, particularly with the Pine Grove neighborhood. So not only are we going to be modernizing that building, but we're going to be adding, as we're working with the architects right now through the initial ed specs, initial stages of design, adding about 350 students to that school. So they currently have a state-rated capacity of around 1,200. We're hoping to get it up somewhere between 1,550 and 1,600. So capacity is number one, and then we look at the age of buildings. So a document that we've referenced a number of times going back to 2014 was that the state, and at the time, and I know I'm drawing a blank, Dr. Lever suggested that the school system in 2014 do a countywide look at all of our schools. And with that report, which was done by an architect, GWO, who at the time was not one of our on-call architects, but now is one of our on-call architects, completed a study, a report for us, and at that point they identified about $500 million worth of projects that the school system needed to do to bring up our schools to modern standards. We've knocked a number of those off over the last several years with some of the projects that were just mentioned. But so that's another step. So capacity 1, 2, looking at the age of the facility and the infrastructure. So whether it needs to be an entire complete renovation, like we've done at schools Eva Turner and Dr. Mudd, or a more limited renovation, like we've done at McDonough High School. We make that based upon the infrastructure and the major mechanical systems for those schools. And we try to, make sure that we are spreading, and maybe not always with the CIP, but this is where the maintenance money comes in, or when we fight for year-end funds, surplus money, then we try to look at spreading projects around the county, so just not one particular area of the county is seeing renovations or new school construction.
Mr. Heim, thank you for that, because I just wanted to make sure we don't have anybody in the county that says, wait, their school looks better than mine, or my school's newer than theirs, and I think it's really helpful for the public to understand how we're judiciously going through project scheduling and making sure that we spread the love across the county and that everybody is getting taken care of.
Can I also just add, as an example to add on to what Mr. Heim was just saying, the renovation at Benjamin Stoddard was a multi-year project that spanned 3 years and has cost over $42 million. The project we're doing with an open space enclosure at Pickawaxon has taken 2 summers so far, and it will be another summer next year, but we're doing that to the tune of $13 million. Now, it is not a complete renovation of the building, but we are enclosing all the classrooms. We are giving windows to all the exterior areas. We're providing solar tubes to get daylighting into the interior classrooms. We are completely revamping the look. The building from the outside is going to look the same as it did. It's got some new panels and stuff on the fascia, but it's going to be the same footprint. It's going to look the same, but interior, the spaces are going to feel completely different. And this is the same experience that the students at Dr. Brown had 2 years ago when we did that project there. So we realized we can't spend 40, 50, $100 million on every project we need to do a full renovation. So we're trying to look at these things as smartly as possible to give the students the best situations we can, while also trying to be wise with the money.
And I think that the public will appreciate that explanation, so thank you very much. I do too.
And I know Dr. Navarro likes data, so I always try to throw in some additional data.
I'll do.
So with FY26, the cost per square foot with construction is $416 just for the building. That's a brick and mortar. If you throw in the site development to go along with that, if that is needed for that particular project, it's $495. For a comparison, when we talk about inflation, so again, FY26, $416 per square foot. FY19 was $302 per square foot, and then with site development, it was $360 compared to now, which is $495. So then you multiply that out by the square foot of that building. So an elementary school could be, maybe as small as 54,000 square feet, and when you're talking about a high school, you could be talking over 150,000 to 250,000 square feet. So the cost of construction has increased dramatically since pre-COVID.
Absolutely has. Thank you. Ms. Bella Washington, you have something?
Thank you for the presentation, but I always go back to my favorite one. Nanjamo, I just want to know, this is for the public to know how do it fit in, because we know it's an older school, and I know this is Jamila's thing, but I always go and give them backpacks and supplies, and when I go, I'm asking myself, if I was out in the community and seeing all the schools that come up and stuff, why my school? So can you elaborate on that, please?
Okay, so I'll go back to some data that I threw out there. So back in 2014, that study showed at that point, with our 30-some buildings at that point, that we needed about $500 million to bring up all of our facilities to standard. So if you look at those inflation rates since that point, we'd be talking over $1 billion now to address that. So yes, we would like to be able to address all of our buildings. If you look at the average age of our buildings, it's around 27 years of age. So we have a number of projects that we would like to do, but we have to work within our budget constraints. So again, that number, our 10-year average, what we expect to see annually from the state is about $9.2 million. So what we do though is we can do some smaller things, which it's not a complete renovation, but one of the things the former principal there, Mr. Hoffman, approached me before he was transferred out of there about a whiteboard replacement. So we're working with a contractor to put new whiteboards or coverings for whiteboard materials in the classrooms. We did some things last year with the parking lot to add some additional parking there with some milling. So when they have large events like the Donuts for Dads, there's additional parking there. We've done some things with the site work, again, not exciting, not eye-catching, but to address some of the stormwater issues they have when we have periods of rain, to make sure that the water is running away from the playground. So there are some things that not as exciting as a new roof or a complete HVAC replacement, but when we don't have the funding, we try to do smaller type projects at schools. And again, that's identifying things around the county, because we don't want to have, we may not be able to spend $27 million over on that particular school, but we try to do other things to make sure that there are smaller items that are being addressed.
We did the gym.
Thank you. I just more for the public, because we get asked those questions, so by hearing it directly from you, it is more credible coming from you.
And then last summer, which we had to do some abatement with that, but that's another thing that when we talk about our older buildings, it's just not the cost of the materials, but when you get into some of our older buildings, you got some materials because of when that construction was completed. So when we did the replacement of the gym floor last summer at Mount Hope, they had a hard surface for the gym floor. We put a GER floor, which is a softer surface like you see what's installed in our newer elementary schools. But one of the things we had to do is we had to do a mercury abatement with the old floor, which added $60,000 to the cost of that project. So when you get into abatement at older facilities, so it's not just the cost of the renovation, but particularly if it was a building built before the 1980s, where we have encapsulated asbestos in those buildings, it adds dramatically to the cost of the buildings. And just again, talk about the cost of abatement. When we did the Dr. Mudd renovation, we had close to $400,000 worth of asbestos abatement in those buildings that had to be taken care of by a professional licensed company, removed before the demolition of those buildings could occur, before the new building could be built.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. Ms. Kramer will be the final point.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you both for being here, and I just appreciate the level of detail that you're able to provide. You guys clearly know your stuff, so which is great because this is not an area of my expertise, and so really appreciate that. So just a couple of quick questions. So I see some projects on here, which I feel like I need a glossary for this. Like, what's A&E? What does that mean?
That's your architect or engineer. That's your design.
Okay, I thought it was design, but I'm like, there's no D. What's going on? Okay, so architecture and engineering, that would be design. So that would be an example of what I was going to ask was, would there be a reason for projects to be on, like repeat projects to come up multiple times? And so you would need one capital project request for the architecture and engineering or design phase, and then you would have to ask again for construction money. Is that correct?
So when you see this list here, if you see multiple projects with the same school, it may be a similar system. So we may be doing the roof one year, and then a couple of years behind, we may be doing the HVAC replacement.
Okay.
But when you see the project listed this way, we would be asking for the whole project. It would be one fiscal year for the design, the following fiscal year for planning, if necessary. If not, then construction, and so on.
Okay.
What will happen, unfortunately, is if it is a state eligible project that didn't get funded, say last year, it would then push off into this year. So as things get checked off the list, then the ones that were not funded last year become a higher priority. So they do eventually make their way to the top. But you may see the names of schools here multiple times, but it's usually because they're different systems.
Okay, makes sense. So that explains why Picowaxon says fiscal year 2022 was their, I guess, planning for their boiler replacement,
Right.
and now we need the construction.
Yes, so that's when we got the design funds. We've asked for the construction funding for at least the last 3 years from the state. It was just a lower priority below Martin and Elementary 23 and several other projects, and now those are coming off the books, and so now we're able to ask for that construction funding and probably get it.
Okay, great. And
But
then
that's also good because then we will be designed and ready to move that project forward at that time.
right, because you already have that, and that's good. That's good to hear as well. And then my last question was, I heard you say you expect about 9.2 million from the state. How many projects would you say you're typically able to complete each year based on the funding? That I know we don't know exactly, but based on like average from the last several years.
So again, we'll defer back to the fact that we are very fortunate in the county will forward fund us. If we were just waiting on that state share and not moving projects forward until we know we had a full commitment of the state money to make a project happen, we'd be waiting for many years before we could actually finish projects. Because the county will let us do that. As an example, like I mentioned with St. Charles, the state share was $45 million. And the county, after year one funding, said, you can go, you can build this, and the duration is 2 years. We will take the state money those 2 years, and then whatever you're getting on the back ends for 3, 4, 5, 6, you'll just give right back to us. And that's what we did. And so because of those kinds of agreements that we have with the county, we've been fortunate, and we've been able to commit and complete projects where we've been pairing two major projects at a time. Mr. Heim mentioned earlier, we ran Dr. Mudd's renovation and Billingsley Elementary School at the same time.
Nice.
We ran Benjamin Stoddard and Eva Turner at the same time. We're running TC Martin and Elementary 23, now Thornton Elementary School at the same time. So we've been running 2 large projects at one time, and we've been very fortunate because of those commitments from the county, as well as other small projects. So if you're asking for an average, I would say, if you're just talking about maybe the last 6 or 7 years, we've been completing probably 3 or 4 projects, but they're of varying scopes and complexity. Something from a small project like fitting out a space for the barbershop program at Steedham, all the way to finishing a whole school like we're doing now at TC Martin.
But one of the things that become more difficult in the future, particularly with an elementary school renovation, is that with us starting the Early Child Learning Center at the former transition school in Waldorf on that campus with J.P. Ryan and John Hanson Middle School, we will no longer have that building at our luxury to use as a swing school. So that has actually helped when we talk about construction, helped speed up the amount or lessen the amount of time we needed for construction, because with Mudd and Turner and TC Martin, we were able to vacate those buildings and completely turn them over to the contractor, which meant that they could work year-round on those projects. So we were able to complete those renovations in a 2-year period. We've referenced the Benjamin Stoddard Middle School renovation and addition. We were able to do that over a 3-year period. We were fortunate, and I guess if there's anything fortunate about COVID, was that we had a building that was vacant for a period of time. If that building was not vacant for an extended period of time during COVID, it was more likely that that project would have occurred over a longer period than 3 years. So, in the future, some of our renovations to elementary school may be longer, or we have to maybe take a different direction and not do a renovation. It may end up being where we have to build a new building and then tear down the old building, which you'll see is sometimes a more common practice with some other school systems. But the La Plata High School project, that's going to be a multi-year project if we're fortunate to get the funding for the project that we would like to do there, because an occupied renovation is difficult, it's disruptive. So with some of your visits, as you know, if you've been over to McDonough over the last 2 summers and talked to Mr. Russell, we create a difficult time for him besides trying to get good test scores and keeping things under wrap over there. And if you talk to Mr. Doolin, when we were doing over the previous 2 years with the HVAC replacement over there, it's very disruptive. And Ms. Stenstead down at Pick-a-Wax. And so they like to see us, but they also not like to see us, because sometimes when we come down there, we don't come with having to deliver good news.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
All right. Okay. Quick question.
The Healthy Schools grant funding that you get, is that something that has an expiration for us? Or is it something we can continue to go back? You talked about mercury abatement, asbestos. Is that something that we leverage in order to be able to do some of those for the older school projects? And is that going to run out, or is it something we can keep going back to dipping in the funds again?
So Healthy Schools is a competitively based grant process. So all the jurisdictions submit their projects, and the state weighs them against criteria. The money was supposed to sunset, but they've extended it several years. So as of now, yes, we can continue to go back. And we've been fortunate. We've actually secured 4 roof projects, and this year as well
2 additional.
2 additional, and a asbestos abatement project related to General Smallwood. So we've been very fortunate that we've secured some funds, but it just is competitive. The other projects we asked for didn't get funded. So it's hit or miss. And so I wouldn't say we can be guaranteed, but I think once we understand the type of projects that are approvable and we try to focus on those, then we're able to secure some funds, yes.
Okay, great. I noticed we did that also for the transportation to get some electric vehicles and things. So I think that's good if we can continue to do that. It just helps get more money in our coffers. So thanks so much for that.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Hine, Mr. Andrews, much appreciated. Dr. Navarro will come up next with a school renaming update on General Smallwood. As a reminder for the board, this is not something for action right now. This, at the soonest, would be for November. And for those who may be wondering, and I know you are, after resolutions, we'll take a break. We're not going through all this.
Thank you, Madam.
I didn't want any smoke.
So kind.
I know somebody's like, how long are we going?
I was looking at this agenda
They're like, wait a minute.
Good afternoon, board members. As Ms. Morley mentioned, this is an update, so just as a reminder, the board approved at the June 11th board meeting the following next steps. As it follows, it's policy 7230 regarding renaming. That on the August, September, and October board meetings, an update came forward regarding any communication that the Board of Education has received regarding its renaming process, and that the vote, and if there is a vote, or if there would be a vote, that it could be no earlier than November 24th, and that the community be still able to submit their feedback. And so today we're coming to you with the August update. Regarding board mail, now the community also has an opportunity to send their feedback to the board both through board mail, but also through public comment. And so we have compiled the correspondence that we received between June 11th and August 9th. I do want to make a note that we received 2 additional emails, I believe yesterday or today, which will be part of your September update. They were both emails specifically supporting the renaming, but you'll get those verbatim, just like we have the ones here that the board received between June 11th and August 9th. We did not touch them, we just took out identifiers, but we left them as they came into board mail. We will be presenting additional updates to you again at the board meeting on September 10th and also at the board meeting on October 15th, should we get any additional emails through the board mail website, email. That is my update.
All right, thank you, Dr.
Thank you
Navarro.
so much.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Okay, next up, Ms. Bella Washington, the Grandparents' Day resolution. Did you want to read it? It's been out on board docs, so it's up to you if you'd like to read it. We'll be taking action on it later.
Okay, I would like to read it.
Okay.
The Board of Education of Charles County National Grandparent Day, September the 8th, 2024. Whereas the first Sunday in September after Labor Day has been recognized as National Grandparent Day since 1978, when it was signed into law by President Jimmy Carter. And whereas Charles County Public School recognized that grandparents are essential members of our families and communities, and the importance of the contributions that grandparents make in the lives of young people. And whereas the impediment for National Grandparent Day originated with efforts of 7 individuals, including Adjournment McCradle, a housewife in Fayette County, West Virginia, whose primary motivation was to educate citizens about the valuable contribution that senior citizens have and would make if they were asked, and to bring light to the lifetime experience that those in the senior community offers to the young generation. And whereas National Grandparent Day is a day in which school, churches, and senior organizations can honor grandparents and other senior citizens with special events or acknowledgement that would enhance multi-generation intersection and encourage young people to tap into the wisdom and experience of their grandparents and senior community members. And whereas National Grandparent Day offers an opportunity for grandparents to spend quality time with their grandchildren, to share the history and lineage of their family, and to build awareness and encourage respect for older generation. And whereas the community should not forget those in nursing homes who may be unable to be with their families or have no families. Communities are encouraged to include those individuals in their lives and to help keep them connected to their community through cards, community projects, and regular visitation. And whereas CCPS is very fortunate to have many foster grandparents in our community that provide support to our students with not only academics, but by sharing their wisdom, experience, and talents within the younger generation. And whereas the Board of Education of Charles County encourage a culture of respect for the elder members of our community and encourage our educators and community to celebrate and the significant role that grandparents have in shaping the lives of our students and their future by welcoming grandparents and our elder community members as parents in education now. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Charles County endorse the recognition of September the 8th, 2024 as National Grandparent Day, and is further resolved that a copy of this resolution be inserted into the minutes of the August the 13th, 2024 board members. By order of the Board of Education of Charles County, this 13th day of August 2024. Superintendent of School, Dr. Navarro, and Chairperson Yanea Morley, Esquire.
Thank you, Ms. Butler Washington. As I said, this is for action later. Any comments? All right. Thank you all. And finally for now, don't get too excited. For now. The recurring resolutions, you all see them listed there. These are the ones that we've already previously approved. I'll share them quickly for the benefit of the public. September, National Hispanic Heritage Month. October, currently there's none. November, American Education Week, American Freedom Week, Native American and Alaska Native Heritage Month. December, National Special Education Day. January, none. February, Black History Month, Career and Technical Education Month, Gifted and Talented Education Month, National School Counseling Week. March, Fine and Performing Arts Month, Read Across Charles County Day, Women's History Month, World Down Syndrome Day. April, Administrative Professionals Week, Autism Acceptance Month, Child Nutrition Employee Appreciation Week, Month of the Military Child, Month of the Young Child, National Arab American Heritage Month, National Library Week, National Student Leadership Week, National Volunteer Awareness Month. May, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Jewish American Heritage Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, National Physical Education and Sport Week, Teacher Appreciation Week. June, Inclusion and Diversity Month, National Caribbean Heritage American Month. Oh, National Caribbean American Heritage Month. I will add that in September, on the agenda will be an opportunity if there are any additional ones that board members would like to add. I know Ms. Samisha Thomas has been working on the girls in education. Is that? I'm sorry, girls in sports. Yes. And then that will be the time if there are any additional ones that we may want to consider or reconsider. Respectfully, we're busy in April, so let's just consider that. May is pretty packed as well, but I don't want to rule anything out that may be of significance, but just consider that if there are any that you want to bring forward. Any questions or comments?
I have a quick question.
Ms. Warren and then Ms. Kramer.
So when do we, will we discuss that under new business if we wanted to present a resolution in September, or should I just send an email?
And actually, and that's a good point, an email, and if you have a draft, because it's on us to write it. So yeah, that would be very much appreciated. And I'm trying to remember, in the past, I think we did it, I'm not saying new business, maybe future agenda items. And it depends too on what month.
It's going to be in March.
I think
It's
future
going to be a
agenda
day in
items.
March.
March, okay, yeah. And that would be a good time, because that gives us plenty of time to get it, approved.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Kramer?
Yep, so I just wanted to say, just for a point of clarification, so tonight we're just taking action to approve the ones that we currently have, correct?
Yes, that
That's it.
and the grandparents.
And that
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
okay.
those two are for action tonight,
Perfect.
yes.
Yeah, and Ms. Warren, also, if you have a draft and you want, you can send it over, and I'm happy to look at it too. If you need the formatting or what have you, just let me know.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ms. Kramer. Yeah, we've been, Ms. Kramer's been great about editing. I've edited some. Ms. Mackey has done, so we'll work to
Group
get it.
effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, any questions or comments? No? All right. Thank you all very much. So I know this is the part you've been waiting to hear. We are on break. Let's see, it's 3:41. I think we'll be good until 4:30. We can take a good break, and then that gives us time to do unfinished new business, et cetera, and then go into public forum. So if you could please take us off until 4:30. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, everyone. All right, everyone, welcome back. We're back on the air. All right, hope everyone enjoyed your break. Moving on with the agenda, we will go to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business? Ms. Miller Washington?
Yes, I wanted to, at the last meeting, you brought up about the handbook. I wanted to see if we can revisit the handbook.
Okay. So you had, I remember you had specific, what, the handbook overall, or do you want to?
Just the ones I put in, the 6 and 7.
6 and 7, okay. All right, is there agreement?
For clarification?
Yes, yes.
The board handbook is what
Yes,
you're
the board
talking about?
handbook,
Okay,
yes.
just making sure.
Yes. Is there the majority, the quorum to revisit the handbook?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think at our last retreat, our facilitator mentioned, and we didn't really get to it at our last retreat, but she asked some questions, so, obviously dovetailing with whatever comment she has would make sense, if the board's in agreement with that.
Yeah, I was, so is that a yes for you? Anyone else?
Sure, I mean.
Okay. No? All right. Okay. All right, thank you. Any other unfinished business? Okay, new business. And these are typically things that we would take action on tonight. Okay, future agenda items.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
oh, you had something, Dr. Navarro?
No, one of the things that needed to come under new business is the board metrics.
Oh, you're right. I blew right past that. I
Yes.
apologize.
No,
Thank you. And yeah, we've had a conversation about this. I've received responses so far from 2 board members, so we will be establishing a subcommittee. So Ms. Kramer and Ms. Smith, thank you. And we're going to be essentially looking at what it is the board wants to focus on, and these board members will be working in conjunction with Dr. Navarro and then reporting back to the larger board. So this is kind of almost like a mini strategic plan, in a sense, if you will. So if anyone else, I'd like to cap it at 3. Ms. Thomas?
Yes, I'd like to participate, but I'll send mine.
Oh, okay. All right, so you just in town, see, I wanted to cap it at 3.
My jam.
Okay. All right, so Ms. Kramer, Ms. Smith, and Ms. Tamisha Thomas. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Okay, any? Yes.
Just for clarification, we're just meeting to bring it back to larger board.
Right.
Okay.
It's not anything that, it obviously have to come back to us. So
Right.
It's not it's the initial draft. if
Okay,
you will.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any future agenda items? Yes,
Resolution that I want to bring up or no?
Oh, we were
Or
gonna.
just send you an email?
Yes, we
Okay,
send an
gotcha.
email, and we'll look at all the resolutions in September. Yeah. Well, we're way early, everybody. No other future agenda items? No. Okay. Okay, we will move on then to, because public forum isn't until 6, reports of officers, boards, and committees. So board correspondence, I know we were out since June, but there's still been quite a bit going on. I've seen several of you at multiple events and activities. Would you like to start, Ms. Butler-Washington, or we can start down this way? Either way, we usually kind of start on one end. Oh, sorry, not even Ms. Butler-Washington, Mr. Verk, I apologize. Yeah, this whatever you'd like to share, any updates you have, anything you did over the summer?
Yes, yesterday.
Hey, look, very recent.
All right then.
Very recent.
Very timely.
Yes.
I was at the MABE new member student orientation for SMOBs, and I met a lot of people. I met student members of the board from all across Maryland, and it was a great experience. Mr. John Willems, with the of MABE, he works with the government and stuff, right? He taught us a lot about just new policies that have been passed by the governor, as well as the role of the state board, role of the commissioners, how to be an effective member of student government, to how to represent students, and how to work effectively as a board member, and our duties and our to stick in the governance mindset, and pertaining with board relations to the superintendent. It was really, really informative, and I feel a lot more confident about the coming year after it. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Sam. Okay, Ms. Butler-Washington.
Attended the summer school graduation, which was great. Dr. Navarro had already spoke about it, so it was just great to see the students there who didn't give up and still went through, and so they can continue on with their career. On the same day, we went to the Equity in History institution at the Piscataway Park. It was not dressed correctly, but I enjoyed myself. Everybody was smart enough to put on some low shoes, and I had my heels on, and wasn't a good look, but I was out there. I was out there.
I mean, they count. She look cute.
So, I attended the Military Appreciation Day at the Blue Crabs with the governor. It was, a lot of people came out and stuff. So, and saluting to our military. So it was full. So that was an exciting time. And on August the 17th, I'm going to have a back-to-school book bag and supply drive at the Shops of Waldorf. So please come out. And the book bags that I do not give out. Several schools have already reached out, so the agreement is I'm going to just take those book bags to Miller High Title Ones first, and then I'm going to talk to Dr. Navarro about schools that, high schools that might need them, because I don't know any Title Ones or anything. I just want to give them to the school that mostly need them. And that concludes mine. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I always skip Dr. Navarro. I know you shared earlier. Is there anything else you'd like to? You're good? No. Okay. All right, I'll come back. Ms. Kramer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've enjoyed the summer very much, but excited to welcome everyone back to school in a couple of weeks. I might be one of the only people that's excited about that, but but I definitely love back to school time. So I did get to attend new educator orientation yesterday and see so many new educators that we are welcoming to Charles County. So again, want to say thank you and welcome. We appreciate you choosing Charles County and look forward to you being with us for many years. My son attended a few camps this summer, and I just want to say kudos to everyone who works on the summer camp programs, because he attended one of the enrichment, actually two of the enrichment camps at Mattawoman, and then the CTE exploration camp, which was like a huge hit. He loved being able to experience all the programs, and they did a field trip to CSM, which he really enjoyed. And I just think it's a great addition to the summer programs that we offer students. Because I remember my older kids who both did apply to CTE programs didn't have that opportunity. So I think it's good for them to be able to explore at a younger age. So definitely kudos to everybody who worked on that and put those together, because he really enjoyed himself. I also attended the Rasheed Walker football camp at North Point High School, which I think it was back in July. Every day just kind of ran together this summer, but it was one weekend in July. And so if you're not familiar, Rasheed Walker, he's an NFL player for the Green Bay Packers, but he is also a Charles County Public School graduate from North Point High School. And so this is the second year that he did the camp. He offers the camp for free for kids, and he partnered with another local organization, Southern Maryland Youth Flag Football League, under Reggie Barksdale, if anybody's familiar with him. So yeah, he does. Reggie does a whole lot in the community. So kudos to Reggie and his team, and Rasheed Walker. His entire family was there, volunteering, and I volunteered. We were there for the whole day. It was really hot, but the kids had a blast. I mean, it was very hot. I looked like as red as Miss Morley's jacket over here at the end of the day. But it was so worth it, because all the kids and the parents really enjoyed themselves. There were a lot of community organizations out there, and a lot of people volunteered to help out. So that was really great. I look forward to doing that again next year. And I also got to attend the Educational Roundtable at St. Charles, and it was also the 10-year celebration of the, or anniversary of the Science Center. So that was really nice. It was like a couple weeks ago, right? Dr. Navarro was there, and a lot of the elected officials were there, and they, just really talked about, again, the establishing of the Science Center, how important it was. It was a vision of Mr. Richmond's, and just really great, to have that as an asset to Charles County. So that is all I have. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kramer. Mr. Lucas.
Thank you, Chair Morley. I won't repeat some of the things that are said, but I appreciate everyone on the board attending what you can, particularly in the summertime.
I would say if there was a time to repeat, we have nothing but time.
Yeah. Good point. So just this past weekend, there was the bus event with the Chamber of Commerce and the Pop-Up and Grow shops at the shops in Waldorf. So I stopped by on Sunday, dropped off a few things. And I just want to thank the Chamber and all the organizations. I mean, there's a multitude of organizations that make sure the kids have book bags and supplies when they go back to school. So thank you to everyone. And if you ever want to volunteer, reach out to anybody on the board. We'll put you in touch with somebody. That's not a problem. And Mr. Kramer, myself, and Mr. Hancock, I think this happened after our last board meeting in June, where the Be the Difference Awards that took place at North Point High School. So great turnout of folks, and it's good. After COVID, like everybody, we took a hit in terms of people being able to volunteer, but the event was bigger than last year, and I look forward to it being even larger next year. And just want to say thank you to all our individuals, community organizations and businesses that volunteer, and that's the key word, because you give something that's really precious, and that's your time. And so the fact that you do that, and we're able to recognize you, even if it's just for one night, we really appreciate that. So that's it for me.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Certainly. So I will be brief. So just a few things this summer. Really appreciated the summer boost and summer enrichment boot camps that were led by the county. Had an opportunity to have a couple of our customers participate in those summer programs. But it was a great opportunity just to be in the midst of community and to see parents dropping their children off, how excited they were, how safe and comfortable and wonderful it was, all of the educators that were giving their all. It was just a really amazing opportunity. I actually had an opportunity to run into a couple of our commissioners as well, who came out just to better understand like where our money goes when we commit to these types of programs, and to hear the anecdotal feedback from parents in real time in terms of how much they appreciate the county for the opportunities that we offer. Not just a place for where their kids are to go, but an opportunity to get a boost in like potential AP classes that they may be taking, to explore CTE programs before they get into high school or have to make those choices. But just a really great opportunity. So wanted to give kudos again to all of those administrators and teachers that helped to run the program, and to Dr. Navarro and her team as well. I had an opportunity to participate in the summer school graduations a couple of weeks ago. As I was watching the students kind of come across the stage, one of the things that came to mind was Langston Hughes and his quote of a dream deferred but not denied, or a dream deferred is not a dream denied, or something along those lines. These are students who had a variety of situations that could have come up during their 4 years in high school, from being medically fragile to perhaps taking a divergent path from their peers, but either way they stayed the course and they made it through. And I was just so very proud of all of those students. Also had an opportunity the very same day to attend the Equity and History Summer Institute that Ms. Butler-Washington spoke about. Definitely want to give kudos for the school systems partnership, Mr. Tuttle and his team, Dr. Navarro and her team, working with, I believe they were called the Southern Maryland Equity and History Coalition. And all of the organizations they partner with, from Prince George's to Calvert to St. Mary's, and of course with Charles, and thinking through how are we providing our educators opportunities to better understand the Black and Indigenous history that is right here in the county, and what is the appropriate way of teaching that history and incorporating it into lesson plans. Love all the work that was taking place during that symposium, that opportunity, and all the sort of vendors that came out as well, just to help teachers have resources and materials and help them understand like this is not something that you have to go alone, that there are a variety of educators kind of digging into this space and really working to figure it out. And there are resources and tools available for you in your classrooms that you can use. Just really appreciated that opportunity. So those are the three that I will speak about. And I also wanted to give a quick shout out to Ms. Tierra Thomas, who's a parent leader in our area, who serves on the Maryland Commission on Indian Affairs. She's also a Piscataway Conoy tribe member, as well as the executive director for the Akaki Foundation, who also partnered with us to sort of make that opportunity available for our educators and our administrators. So quick shout out to her and all the work that was done there as well.
Thank you. Ms. Brenda Thomas.
Well, I pretty much went to everything y'all went to. I mean, the military appreciation with Governor Moore, also the equity history, also the summer school graduation. Oh, I'm so proud of them, just taking that extra step and getting there. Let's see, the Leadership Institute we went to. What else? I didn't do the Chambers of Bus. I just couldn't do it. So many things. And the new teachers orientation, so that was good too. What was it, 207?
Oh yeah, it was over to
Yeah, I mean that was. I was proud that we got that many. And that's about it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks. I spent my summer preparing my 2024 graduate to leave to go to school. And I'm finally an empty nester. But I attended the leadership program, which I was just really pleased to see the new principals. We got to know them intimately. And the new APs that are coming up, that was really good to see, a life outside of what they do for our kids, but also to see how rich their own lives are and how they bring that into the classroom, which I think is really good. And this summer we've done a lot of policy work, which I've been excited about, working in the groups and the teams, and especially the staff that has been supporting those efforts during the summer. That's also been very helpful because they've taken their time, especially the newer staff members that have come, have really added innovative thinking to help us get to some of these policy changes that we have, which is really good. And so those are the things that I have participated in this summer.
Fantastic. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Warren.
Yes, I'm so glad that you all attended all of these wonderful things.
All right, it's a marathon.
I'm looking forward to this school year and attending a whole lot of events. I went to a few meetings. Of course, my Educational Equity Committee meeting that I'm on with MAVE, that meeting. That was about it. But I'm actually happy, Ms. Kramer, to be back for the school year. So I'm just looking forward to this school year and working with everyone and seeing all the new students we're going to award. So yes, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be back as well because the fall, I go back and forth between fall and spring. Which one is my favorite? I think it's the fall. I think it's the fall. It's just something about, all the new energy and the back to school, all that. So I'm excited. My kids, probably less so. Well, first and foremost, happy belated birthday to Dr. Navarro. Woo! Anyone else celebrate? I don't think anyone else celebrated in July or August, right? No? Okay.
End of July.
Oh, you're July? Oh, that's right. Oh, happy birthday. I remember I told you happy birthday. Yes, happy birthday. And you got to travel, so that's fantastic. You had a good summer. Look, I was following you. I know you had a good summer. We did not officially meet in July, as you know, but there was a lot, as you've heard, going on behind the scenes. Our policy work group, that work continues. We will be presenting what we presented today, one of the products of that, grading. There's much more to come. I know our millions around the world that are watching are just riveted, just waiting with bated breath to see what we come up with. Shout out to the 60 students that graduated from the summer. That was fantastic. I love that. I love to see just anyone graduating because I know what it takes to get to that. So we're very, very proud of you. I also attended the Equity and History Symposium at Piscataway. As Ms. Smith said, shout out and kudos to Ms. Tiara Thomas, who is tireless in this Title VI work, and also to Mr. Tuttle. It was fantastic. In particular, I loved the art. I loved the paintings, the handmade items. There was so much there. I'm looking forward to going back. National Night Out, I attended Fieldside. Fieldside is always a good time. And this year I was also able to go to Berry Hill Manor. So that was very, very nice. And tried to be intentional about going to different communities, but as you know, it's only 2 hours, so it's only but so much you can do. The Leadership Institute was wonderful. I love the Olympics theme. That was sidebar. I actually got to go for a week this year. I'm still on a high from that, but it fits so perfectly with what we're hoping to accomplish. And when we get a gold medal, we get a gold medal. Like the running joke, I forget the gentleman who he's like, he had the meme. He's like, when you participate, you don't participate in the group project, but you still get the prize. Look, we're all here to win. So definitely focusing on that. I love the new energy of the new school year. This is an exciting time. Likewise with the new teacher orientation, that was fun. That was really, really exciting. And what was the call? CCPS Rocks? Is that where we're going? Yes. Okay, all right, we gotta remember that. That was that, yeah. No, that was it. It was a call and response. Thank you to all of our staff, our leadership, our bus operators, EACC, AFSCME. There's so many people that work year round that have been really busy. The summer is a very busy time. A lot of people think it's a quiet time. It's really not. Not at all if you're in the schools. So thank you all so much. They've been working so hard, as Mr. Hile shared, all the many things that are probably gonna happen just in that first day of school and all the things that led up to preparing for that. So we appreciate you. We're excited to welcome back all of our students, and we're gonna have a fantastic school year. So that's all I have. What we will do now is we can go to action items, get those approved, and then we can be on break until public forum, and then look who's finished.
So I just want to make a note that we actually can't take action on action items until after public comment. I just checked with the lawyer.
No, we were so far ahead.
So we will have to break until public
6.
Forum again,
Okay.
and then come back. No,
I know, right? All right. Well, we are back off the air on any of the action items until after, the public.
Meetings.
Yes, there we go. There we go. All right, if you could please take us off until 6 p.m. Welcome back. All right, we are almost at the conclusion of our meeting. Next up is public forum. Would you like to start with the in-person speaker, Mr. Schwartz? Oh, you have to read your disclaimer. Yeah.
Read the rules for public forum.
Thank you.
Speakers should identify themselves. Statements should be brief to the point and limited to 3 minutes or less. Board members should not be expected to respond during the forum to statements made by speakers. When appropriate, CCPS staff may address the speaker's concerns directly. Statements should relate to Charles County Board of Education agenda items or any education-related topic with the following limitations: personnel matters, pending or potential appeals, or the comments regarding the actions or statements of individual staff or the private lives of any individual are not appropriate topics. Proper language and decorum are required at all times. This evening, we have 1 person signed up in person and 2 signed up virtually. In person, I will call Patrice Kelly.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. And welcome, Ms. Kelly.
Hello, board members.
Hello, good evening.
Greetings, school board members. My name is Patrice Kelly. I'm the newly appointed secretary for Charles County Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee, also known as CCAC. As we enter this new academic year, we look forward to assisting you with seeking meaningful input from parents, community partners, service providers, and school administration on local issues relative to the provision of a free and appropriate education and also the achievement of Charles County students with disabilities. We welcome you all to follow the Charles County CCAC Facebook page for all news and information. Again, we look forward to partnering with you all, and we ask that you all please continue to invite us into the conversations and parent issues that are relative and appropriate for our mission. So thank you for this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
We have 2 people virtual.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so tonight we have 2 speakers virtually. Mr. Haygood, you can go ahead and provide your comments.
Hey, good, yes. Yeah, you're muted, sir. We can't hear you.
Mr. Haygood, you can provide your comments to the board at this time.
Sorry, I was just trying to get my my microphone unmuted so you can hear me. I assume you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I'd like to address Superintendent Navarro, Chairman Lee, Vice Chairman Kramer, and members of the Charles County School Board. I would ask you to please retain the name of the General Smallwood Middle School. To support my position, I'd like to talk about a surprising finding that DNA recently revealed about the human sacrifices that occurred in the ancient Mayan city of Chichen Itza. You might ask, what does this have to do with retaining or changing the name of General Smallwood Middle School? If you will bear with me and listen to my thoughts for a few minutes, I believe you'll understand my point of view. Researchers analyzed the genomes of the remains of the Mayan children who had been sacrificed and discovered that they were all male. These findings contradicted the long-held belief that young women and girls made up the majority of those sacrificed. The researcher acknowledged that it could be jarring to realize the remains at the site belonged to children. But he said, we have to bear in mind that death was a completely different concept for Mesoamerican culture and was not seen as a bad thing. Of course, from our perspective, it is wrong. But back then, and according to their myths and beliefs, what they were doing was considered correct. So we cannot judge what they did under our modern point of view. Now, we all know that our nation is divided, and we should all be focused on taking steps to help bring Americans together. In an article titled 16 Things Individuals Can Do to Help Bring America Together, Lawrence C. Reed, the author, titled item number 15 as Learn from History, Don't Rewrite It. Mr. Reed goes on to say, lessons from the past can make us better people in the future. Never allow the poison of presentism to corrupt your perspective. Of course, presentism is judging historical characters by the moral and ethical standards of today, which often leads to illogical thinking. What if I was to tell you that I've been spending the summer performing genealogical research on the ancestors of the members of the Charles County School Board? And what if I was to tell you that there was documented evidence that one of the African American members was descended not from an enslaved man, but from a free black ancestor who himself owned slaves, one of whom was his wife? Would that change your perspective about renaming potentially General Smallwood Middle School? Would you as a school board member consider resigning if you knew you were descended from an African American slave owner? I hope you agree with me that judging our distant ancestors by today's modern standards makes little sense and may lead to bad decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, Mr. Wolf, you can unmute yourself and provide your comments to the board.
You muted, sir. We can't hear you.
You're muted. You unmute yourself.
Superintendent Navarro, Chairman Lee, Vice Chairman Kramer, and members of the Charles County School Board, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm the president of the General William Smallwood Chapter SAR. I would ask the school board to retain the name of the General Smallwood Middle School because of his service before, during, and after the Revolutionary War. William Smallwood served as a delegate in the Maryland State Assembly from Charles County for 11 years, beginning in 1761. During the Revolutionary War, he quickly distinguished himself in a variety of battles. His greatest service during the war were his skills as a drill master in raising men and supplies and administering military affairs of his state. He fought valiantly in several key battles, eventually receiving the rank of Major General of the Continental Army. One of his most critical engagements was the Battle of Long Island in Brooklyn, New York, that was fought 248 years ago on August 27, 1776, just 2 weeks from today. George Washington credited General Smallwood with saving Washington's army during the battle. After Washington's troops were caught between land and water attacks in a British-laid trap on Long Island, the rescue came only because Smallwood and his men stood in the gap, held the line, and fought valiantly to create an opening for Washington's army to retreat to safety across the East River. As a result of their sacrifice, the soldiers from Maryland became known as the Maryland 400 and Washington Immortals. Washington and Smallwood remained friends for the rest of their lives. If he were alive today, George Washington would be deeply troubled to learn that the Charles County School Board was considering erasing General Smallwood's contributions and service to the state of Maryland and to the United States of America before, during, and after the war. After the war ended, Smallwood was elected to Congress in 1784, and in 1785, he was named by the Maryland State Legislature to be governor of Maryland. Several paintings exist of Smallwood. One hangs in the old Senate chamber in the Maryland State House in Annapolis, Maryland. Another hangs in the rotunda in the United States Capitol. Smallwood is featured in the painting depicting George Washington resigning his commission inside the Maryland State House. William Smallwood died in 1792. He's buried in Smallwood State Park in Marbury, Maryland. Thank you for considering my request.
Thank you. Okay, just confirming, Mr. Schwartz, those are all our speakers. All right, thank you very much. All right, board members, we have made it through all of the agenda except for the action items. All right, so first up is the minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the June 11th executive session.
Motion to accept.
Thank you. Is there a second? And seconded by Ms. Smith. All right, any discussion? All in favor? All right, thank you. All right, next up, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the June 11th regular meeting. Accept? Okay, second, thank you. Moved by Ms. Samisha Thomas, seconded by Ms. Jamila Smith. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, thank you. Next up, a motion to accept the minutes of the June 17th board work session. Move second. Thank you. All right, discussion? All in favor? All right, thank you. Next up is personnel. This you cannot vote on, Sam. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the personnel action.
So moved.
Second by Ms. Smith. Okay. Moved and seconded. All right, discussion. All in favor? All right, thank you. Next up is recurring resolutions. Motion to accept.
So moved.
Thank you. Second, thank you. All right, discussion? No? Okay. All in favor? Thank you. Something wrong? You okay? Oh, okay. I thought you looked at it. All right, and finally is the Grandparents' Day resolution. Motion to, no.
I move to accept.
All right, second? Second. Ms. Smith, all right, discussion? All right, all in favor? Thank you. And you know what time it is, Miss Brenda Thomas. All right, second? Yes. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned. Thank you. Please take us off the air.
I am praying that every time we will be in at 6 o'clock.